Chapter 1951. Xia Zhilong knew when to yield and when to stand tall. Seeing that Yi Qinghan wasn't willing to hand over Feng Huang, he simply smiled and said, "Since Sect Master Yi isn't willing, then this emperor will give Sect Master Yi face and spare Feng Huang for now. I hope he won't be so lucky next time." Yi Qinghan naturally would not show Xia Zhilong's authority in public. He cupped his fists and said, "Thank you so much for giving me face, Crown Prince. When the immortal medicine is refined into an immortal pill, I'll definitely offer it to you. Then I'll thank you in advance." Xia Zhilong gently waved the Nine Dragons fan and signaled to Xian Xiu with his eyes. "Xian Xiu, let's go." With that, Xia Zhilong and Xian Xiu soared into the sky and disappeared from everyone's sight. A moment later, 50 kilometers away, Xia Zhilong and Xian Xiu landed in a valley. Xian Xiu said unwillingly, "Your Highness, the immortal medicine is right in front of you. Why didn't you use all your strength to snatch it?" Xia Zhilong clenched his fists as a cold flame flashed in his eyes. He replied coldly, "I want to snatch it too. Although Fan Yin is not my match, she has joined forces with Yi Qinghan. In addition, she has the Son of War, Yarsheng, and her Staff of Power. Even if I win, both of us will suffer. How can Gong Wusheng and the Thousand-Hand Buddha let me take the immortal medicine away just like that?" Xian Xiu was helpless. He could only sigh and say, "It's all my fault for being useless. Otherwise, I would have been able to restrain a legendary creature." Xia Zhilong flung his sleeves and snorted. "Humph, it's all that damned Fan Yin's fault. If not for the sky-reaching school backing her up, I would have killed her long ago." After a long while, Xia Zhilong sighed regretfully. "If I had known that Yi Qinghan had improved so much, I would have used my trump card to kill him from the beginning. Fan Yin would not have been able to save him even if she wanted to. Unfortunately, not only did I not kill him, but I also allowed him to advance. The next time I want to kill him, I'm afraid I'll have to use a weapon." Xia Zhilong and Xian Xiu left the valley, leaving only the Thousand-Hand Buddha and Gong Wusheng. They looked at Yi Qinghan and Fan Yin's unfriendly gazes wardly and retreated. They held their divine weapons' deterrence, hoping to escape unscathed. However, Yi Qinghan and Fan Yin only grinned and looked at each other. Then, like tigers and wolves, they pounced forward. "Attack together. Let's cripple the two of them first," Yi Qinghan shouted angrily, causing the two legendary creatures' expressions to change drastically. They fled across the canyon. However, Yar Saint was right next to the Thousand-Hand Buddha. How could he let him leave? He used the Staff of Authority to entangle him. Boom! Yi Qinghan punched the Thousand-Hand Buddha. Although he managed to block it, he couldn't block the pincer attack from Yarsheng and Lin Wutian. He was forced to retreat. Boom, boom, boom. Yi Qinghan's fists rained down like raindrop. With the combined attacks of 3 experts, no matter how fast the Thousand-Hand Buddha was, it gradually fell into a disadvantage. A moment of carelessness caused one of Yi Qinghan's fists to land on its back. Although it had the support of the Buddhist robe and had absorbed 70% of the force, Yi Qinghan's fists were not to be trifled with. 10% of the force was enough to cause an expert of the same level to suffer. Whoosh! Bang! The Thousand-Hand Buddha was smashed into the mountain peak. On the other side, Gong Wusheng looked at Fan Yin, who had stopped him, with an embarrassed smile. He bowed and begged, "Senior Sister Fan Yin, we have no enmity. I'm just here to watch the show. You won't bully the weak, right?" Gong Wusheng had Fan Yin and Emperor Feng. It would be good enough if he could defeat Emperor Feng. Fan Yin's strength far exceeded his. Gong Wusheng knew that the two of them had joined forces, so he didn't want to resist at all. He only hoped that Fan Yin would spare him. Unfortunately, Fan Yin was bored and had nothing to do. She put away the red string and rubbed her jade-like hand. Like a pervert who had seen a beauty, a lewd smile filled her face. "Junior brother Wusheng, I'm bored. Play with me." Fan Yin's voice was very wretched. She didn't look like a peerless beauty or a top legendary expert at all. Gong Wushing shook his head and smiled bitterly. Senior sister, I still have something to do. Please let me leave first. I'll visit you another day to apologize. Are you not giving senior sister face? Fan Yin's face darkened as she asked coldly. Gong Wushing's face changed and he quickly denied it. Senior sister, what are you saying? How can I not give you face? I'm really busy right now. Otherwise, I would definitely make senior sister happy. The son of war standing at the side smiled bitterly. Looking at the 1,000-hand Buddha being beaten up by the three and Gong Wushing being bullied by Fan Yin, he didn't know whether to persuade them or not. He couldn't offend either side. He could only secretly wave at Zhang Jiuxiao and hurriedly leave the battlefield and enter Xuejia Pass. The 1,000-hand Buddha's miserable cries rang out incessantly. His face, which could be considered decent, had been beaten into a pig's head. He had taken at least a few hundred punches from Yi Qinghan and had been kicked in the chest more than a dozen times. It was only after a long time that he managed to escape the encirclement and run towards the battle race. True disciples couldn't be killed. Yi Qinghan knew that, so he had no interest in chasing him. It was enough to teach him a lesson today. If they fought one-on-one another day, it would be good enough if they could win. Legendary disciples were not to be trifled with. Only 3 legendary disciples could suppress him. On the other side, Gong Wushing wasn't so lucky. The 1,000-hand Buddha was only humiliated physically, but Fan Yin wanted to humiliate Gong Wushing's soul. Little brother Wushing, take off your clothes. Just leave your underwear. Give me the clothes in your storage ring. Don't leave a single one behind. Otherwise, the consequences will be very serious. Fan Yin smiled evilly. Gong Wushing's expression changed. He was flustered and exasperated, but he didn't dare curse Fan Yin because Emperor Feng wasn't the only one behind her. Yi Qinghan was also here. Even if he was powerful today, it would be difficult for him to escape their encirclement. Senior sister, what are you trying to do? Gong Wushing asked with a bitter smile. Senior sister, I have seen everything, but I have never seen a man running around naked. Why don't you run for senior sister to see? Senior sister will definitely take care of you in the future. If anyone bullies you, just tell me directly. I will make him kneel down and apologize to you. If you make me unhappy, you know what I mean. Fan Yin's face was full of evil, without any integrity, without any chastity. She actually made such a request. Yar Sheng, Emperor Yi, and company blushed. However, Fan Yin found it very amusing as she looked at Gong Wushing in anticipation. Gong Wushing was so angry that his entire body trembled. His fingertips trembled as he looked at Fan Yin in front of him, and then turned to look at Emperor Feng and Yi Qinghan behind him. There was really no way out. Why are you talking nonsense with him? There are so many of us. It's enough to defeat him. We'll strip him of his underwear and make him run naked, Yi Qinghan said coldly as he rubbed his fists. Clap, clap, clap. Fan Yin immediately clapped her hands and agreed. Little brother Wushing, look at how benevolent I am. I won't be like that scum Yi Qinghan and do unforgivable things. I'll leave something for you. If you're not satisfied, I'll have to agree to Yi Qinghan's suggestion. Gong Wushing immediately gave in. He quickly took off his clothes, leaving only his underwear. He threw it out along with the clothes in his storage ring. He bent his body and looked at Fan Yin with a bitter expression. However, Fan Yin took out an image stone and recorded it. After putting it away, she laughed and said, "Haha, this is fun. Little brother Wushing, you have to be obedient in the future. Otherwise, I'll make countless copies of this image stone and let all the rich and noble families see junior brother's glory." Chapter 1952. Gong Wushing was too embarrassed to face anyone. He covered his face and trembled all over, wishing he could drill into the ground and never see anyone again. Bye-bye, junior brother Wuxing. Let's meet again next time. Fanning laughed so hard that she was convulsing. Gong Wuxing covered his face and ran away, not daring to stay a moment longer. In an instant, Gong Wuxing's speed increased a lot and he disappeared in the blink of an eye. Yi Qinghan shrugged and looked at Fanning. Today, his view of the world had been refreshed. This woman really had no integrity, and was not to be trifled with. Senior Sister Fanning, why don't you help escort the immortal medicine? We can't let anything happen to the immortal medicine, otherwise our efforts will be in vain. Yi Qinghan suggested. However, Fanning glared at him and pointed at herself, angrily rebuking, I say, why are you siding with outsiders? Can't our sky-reaching school refine immortal pills? That old man of my family is an expert in alchemy. He might be able to refine 10 immortal pills. You actually went to ask that old man of the Wu family to refine immortal pills. At least give him a reward for his hard work. Rather than giving it to him, why don't you give it to me? Yi Qinghan slapped his head. Only now did he remember that the immortal medicine had been exposed. Would Fanning allow him to give it away? Without waiting for Yi Qinghan to reply, Emperor Yi and Wu Xing stomped their feet and said unhappily, Senior Sister Fanning, we are still here. How can you say that about our father? Fanning saw that the two beauties were angry and immediately smiled apologetically. Io, there are 2 beautiful girls here. Really? Look at Senior Sister's mouth. Don't take it to heart. But to be honest, even if you send the immortal medicine to the martial Dao Sage Holy Land, that old man will refine immortal pills and you will have to pay a reward for your hard work. That immortal pill will definitely go to your family's true disciple. That guy is vengeful and might not treat you as a little ancestor. Many people were not familiar with the true disciple of the Holy Land of martial arts. Even Renhuang Yi and Wu Xing, the 2 little ancestors, had only seen him once. Moreover, they had seen him from afar. They had never met him, let alone spoken to him. They had no feelings for him at all. But Emperor Yi and Wu Xing still didn't want to let go. That elixir could have been kept by someone else. If it wasn't Emperor Yi, it would have been Wu Xing. Yi Qinghan was naturally unwilling to give the elixir to someone he had never seen before. He wasn't even sure if the other party was a friend or foe. Did you tell your father about this? Yi Qinghan asked. Emperor Yi shook his head and said in a muffled voice, No, I didn't have the time to say it. I just wanted to wait until the immortal medicine was delivered to him. Stop. Let's enter Shuijia Pass and find a place to stay to talk. In order to protect the immortal medicine, my legs are almost broken and my strength is greatly reduced. Otherwise, how could I let Xia Jilong leave so easily? Fanning immediately interrupted the conversation between the two and took the lead to enter Shuijia Pass. Shuijia Pass was the intersection of the Battle Clan and the Holy Land of martial arts. This big city was connected to all directions. One had to go to the Oshi Holy Land. After all, this was an important place for the military. There were experts from several holy lands stationed here. It could be considered as the common territory of the Holy Land of martial arts and the Zhan family. This Shuijia Pass is not only an important place for the military, but also a rich and powerful clan, the Situ clan, whose wealth is comparable to that of a country. This city is not only filled with experts, it is not less than the number of experts in the Holy Lands. When you guys were fighting just now, many real experts were watching the battle, which is one of the reasons why I didn't make a move. However, when Xia Jilong was here, they didn't dare to make a move. Now that Xia Jilong has left, the battle is over, and they have no chance to take advantage of it, so they all left separately. Therefore, you guys shouldn't underestimate this city. It extends in all directions and covers an area of more than 8,000 miles. Perhaps the street sweeper is a top king of the older generation who doesn't want to participate in the affairs of the secular world, so he lives here in seclusion. Don't be arrogant. Fanning shook her head and said as she walked. Arrogant? Everyone looked at Fan Yin's indecent appearance and couldn't help but smile bitterly and shake their heads. Who could be more arrogant and despotic than this woman? However, Yi Qinghan, Lin Wutian and the others listened carefully. There were too many things in the big world that they didn't know. If they underestimated a place one day, they wouldn't know why they were buried there. Take Shuejia Pass for example. If Fanning didn't tell them, how could they know that this place was so dangerous? A group of 7 or 8 people, including Yen Yunbei who was hiding in a different space, were the top geniuses of the younger generation. Especially Fanning, she was a legendary top 3. If Xia Zhilong was ranked first, she could be ranked in the top 3. Their appearance immediately attracted the attention of many people. After all, they were all beautiful women and men. Whoosh, a thin and long whistle resounded through the sky. Fanning was whistling at the little beauty on the side of the road with a teasing look. Yi Qinghan covered his forehead and was speechless. At this moment, he was glad that this woman wasn't a man. Otherwise, all the women in the world would be in trouble. Didn't you say to keep a low profile? You're so arrogant. Aren't you afraid of being beaten up? Yi Qinghan looked at the angry eyes around and couldn't help but remind her in a low voice. However, Fanning stared arrogantly and said, "Who dares to beat me? You guys need to keep a low profile, but I don't. I'm an existence that can take anyone wherever I go." Yi Qinghan and the others were speechless. Yarxing shook his head. It was said that Western beauties were open, but Fanning was much more open than them. She was never serious. A gust of cold air came over, but Fanning felt very cool. Her revealing skirt was rolled up, revealing a large area of snow-white skin. Not only was she not shy, she was deliberately teasing the men on both sides. Everyone was drooling. Some middle-aged men turned their heads away in embarrassment. Sigh. They're so pitiful. With such a peerless beauty, they can only look at her from afar. They can't even touch her. How sad. Fanning had a pitiful look on her face. She was extremely narcissistic. The divine bird appeared and sighed. This pretentious girl is good. She's fresh and refined and has strength. Unlike me, I rely on luck to act pretentious. TSK, she doesn't even have someone to slap her face. This sentence couldn't be hidden from Fanning. She turned around and winked at him. Leave your useless master and follow me. Who dares to hit you when you act pretentious? Phew. Yi Qinghan exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. He wanted to refute, but he could only bear with it under the tyrannical power. The group of people came to the gate of Shuejia Pass. The 6 majestic words stretched across the city wall and filled the galaxy, making people in awe and submission. Shuejia Pass, Southern Heavenly Gate. Little ones, follow me in to play. There are many beauties here. I'm going in to soak in a hot bath and enjoy life. Then, I'll come out to teach you bunch of immature brats. Fanning waved her hand and stepped into Shuejia Pass, Southern Heavenly Gate, in front of everyone. I'm going to faint. I was wondering why there were so many people who didn't know the number 23. Chapter 1953. Fanning led the group, like a big sister leading a group of children, and stepped into the Shuejia Pass. Feng Huang followed Yi Qinghan silently. He couldn't leave now because he knew Xia Zhilong wouldn't let him go so easily. Fanning didn't say much about the title of emperor. After all, he was once a king who possessed supreme glory. Even if he had been imprisoned for 30,000 years, his pride wouldn't allow others to humiliate him. If he was given another 10,000 years to cultivate, he would definitely once again bloom with his own brilliance. Yi Qinghan looked around. The buildings were very old. The cold didn't make the city bleak. On the contrary, it was more prosperous. The city was not as cold as expected. It was very lively. Many experts were walking in a low-key manner. Most of the experts were looking at Yi Qinghan and the others. However, most of them were looking at Fanning and Yarxing. More than half of them didn't know Fanning at all. They could only guess Yarshing's identity. Who are these people? They don't look simple. A middle-aged man asked curiously. A man with bright eyes beside the man immediately replied, "You're ignorant. These people are not simple. Let's talk about the blonde woman first. She's obviously not an Eastern woman. Her bloodline and eyes are high-level bloodline of the Oshi Holy Land. She might be one of the saintesses of the Oshi Holy Land. As for the two girls who look very similar, they must be the two little ancestors of the Oshi Holy Land. And that's Wushuguang, the #1 rogue cultivator. Get lost if you don't know. That blonde woman is the saintess of the Oshi Holy Land, Yarshing. She was an expert who participated in the Shrouding Heaven's secret realm. Everyone knows Wushuguang. After all, he's the #1 rogue cultivator. As for the others, as long as they participated in the Shrouding Heaven's secret realm, they would know. The expert with the sword is Lin Wutian, a junior of the insane sect. The young man without a weapon is Yi Qinghan, the leader of the insane sect, a dark horse that appeared out of nowhere. As expected, there were many experts in the Shuejia Pass. There were many top experts on the streets who had participated in the Shrouding Heaven's secret realm. He revealed the identities of Yi Qinghan and the others, but he didn't know Fanning. Fanning followed the voice and looked at a refined young man. He was quite handsome and held a divine sword in his hand. His face was like jade. He should be an elite disciple of some powerful sect. She suddenly had the thought of teasing him. "Yo, little brother, your eyesight is pretty good. Since you've recognized all of them, why don't you tell me who this little girl is? Are you looking down on me?" Fanning stepped in front of the young expert and reached out to stroke his face. His fingertips lifted the young man's chin as he teased. The young man swallowed a few mouthfuls of saliva as if he had been electrocuted. His entire body trembled. He wanted to reach out and grab the jade-like hand, but his entire body refused to listen to him. His hands couldn't even move. He didn't know why, but he thought he was too excited. Yi Qinghan hurriedly pulled this unprincipled senior sister and advised, "Senior sister, let's hurry and find a place to stay and enjoy life." "Okay." Fanning was a bit bored. She let go of the man's chin and swayed her hips as she walked forward. A long time after the group of people had left, the man finally came to his senses. He glared at Yi Qinghan's back and muttered to himself, "Son of AB*TCH, if it weren't for you causing trouble, I might have already won over the beauty. Hey, Dao friend Shui, how does it feel to be touched by such a beauty?" The surrounding people asked enviously. The young man surnamed Shui said with a face of intoxication, "Awesome, it gave me a feeling of being electrocuted. Compared to ordinary women, it's like heaven and earth. Just now I wanted to reach out and touch her. Unfortunately, I haven't seen any beauties. My hands and feet didn't listen to me." The man surnamed Shui obviously didn't know that he had just escaped death. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to survive in the large world. There was a large inn that was decorated in a grand manner. There was an endless stream of people and carriages outside. It provided accommodation, a hotel, a hot spring and many other services. The name of the inn was even more domineering. Drunken Immortal Inn. As the name implied, even if an immortal came, he would still be drunk here. Passing by the Drunken Immortal Inn, Fanning licked the corner of her mouth. She couldn't walk anymore and involuntarily walked into the inn. "This inn is not bad. The last time I came here, I was so happy that I forgot about home. I almost delayed something important." Fanning swallowed a mouthful of saliva and said. Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes. However, after a hard journey, he also needed to relax. He waved his hand and beckoned the people behind him to come in. Shua. Yan Yunbei suddenly appeared behind Yi Qinghan. It was as if he had been there from the beginning. "I thought you were unwilling to come out." Yi Qinghan smiled and teased. Yan Yunbei smiled and pointed at the large words above the Drunken Immortal Inn and said, I want to see if this drunken immortal inn can make me drunk here. Yi Qinghan laughed and said straightforwardly, wait for me to relax. Let's drink together. We won't leave until we're drunk. Wait patiently. Yen Yunbei replied indifferently. At this moment, Fanine slammed the table in the hall. Her voice was amplified 10 times as she shouted, Boss! Prepare an independent courtyard with at least 10 rooms. Also, prepare a separate hot spring for me and 2 jars of drunken immortal wine. Quickly! Where did this little girl come from? You have no manners. How did your family teach you? You can't make a fuss in the drunken immortal inn. A deacon coldly looked at Fanine and reprimanded her. When Fanine heard this, she immediately used her god power and roared, Drunken immortal, you old bastard! Get out here for me! You're still shouting, Pa! The deacon wanted to stop Fanine but was slapped to the ground by Fanine. Her jade foot stepped on one of his temples. She was extremely domineering. Yi Qinghan was completely speechless. This woman didn't just have no morals. She was even more domineering and unreasonable. Your boss won't teach you how to be a man. I'll teach you how to be a man. Fanine looked down at the deacon on the ground and said domineeringly. There were many people eating around the drunken immortal inn. At this moment, they all raised their heads to look at Fanine. Some of them recognized Fanine and quickly lowered their heads to eat as if they didn't see her. Fanine looked around and reprimanded angrily, What are you looking at? Haven't you seen a beauty flip out? All of you, get down and eat. Those who could eat and stay in the drunken immortal inn were either rich or respectable. They could also see that Yi Qinghan's group wasn't easy to deal with and didn't want to provoke them. They lowered their heads and continued eating. However, there were some who were hedonistic and looked at Fanine provocatively. Before Fanine could react, a white-haired old man ran down from upstairs. When he saw Fanine, he immediately grinned and said, So it's you again, little girl. Hurry up and release him. Otherwise, there won't be any good wine for you today. Fanine kicked the deacon at her feet to the side. She clapped her hands and repeated her request. An independent courtyard. No problem. There are hot springs inside. Moreover, there are 2 of them. Separate for men and women. I guarantee you'll be satisfied. The white-haired old man wasn't angry. He extended his hand and led everyone to the backyard. Chapter 1954. Behind the inn, the drunken immortal residence had a large plot of land. It was at least a few hundred square miles and was used to entertain important people. This was one of the most profitable channels for the Sidhu family. The white-haired old man led everyone to the backyard. The backyard was surrounded by hot springs and had a strong fragrance. Little girl, do you want me to arrange a separate courtyard for you? The old man smiled and asked Fanine. Fanine's eyes lit up and she grinned. No need, the chance to soak in the hot springs with a great beauty is rare. How can I waste it? Then if there's nothing else, this old man will leave first. The drunken immortal wine you wanted, I'll have the maids bring it to you. The old man turned around and was about to leave. Damn old man, bring me some of your best masseuse girls, Fanine said bluntly. The old man shook his head and said, I know you like to enjoy, so this little bit of preparation is still available. Just wait patiently. After saying that, the old man left alone. Yi Qinghan looked around. There was a fence around the courtyard that was as tall as 3 people. The courtyard was at least 100 square meters in size, and the 2 hot springs were separated by a fence. There were arrays on top of the fence, and the springs were not connected to each other. Come, brothers, let's soak in the hot springs and take a break. I'm so tired. Yi Qinghan ran behind the fence and took off his jacket, leaving only a pair of shorts, and jumped into the hot springs. The temperature of the hot springs was just right. Yi Qinghan let out a comfortable cry as soon as he entered. What a wretched voice, Fanine said. Then she also took off her revealing clothes, leaving only a corset and an almost transparent gauze wrapped around her lower abdomen. She jumped into the other hot spring and said in an even more wretched voice, "Ah, so good. If a girl came to give me a massage, it would be even better." Everyone laughed. They really did not understand why a great beauty like Fanine would be interested in other girls. After a while, everyone entered the hot springs. Only Feng Huang stood to the side. His clothes were tattered and stained with blood. Yi Qinghan looked at Feng Huang and said faintly, "Brother Feng, there's no need to be so restrained. We're all on the same side. It's no big deal." Emperor Feng silently took off his clothes. His body was relatively clean, but there were shocking scars all over his body. They intertwined with each other like wriggling worms. At a rough glance, there were about 20 to 30 thick scars, and countless smaller ones. Yi Qinghan took one look and knew that these scars were given to him by Xia Jilong. He did not ask further. All men knew that what a man had to endure was not something a woman could imagine. There was silence in the man's hot spring, but on the other side, the screams of Emperor Yi and the others could be heard. Fan Yin's hands were moving up and down, groping all over. Even a woman like Yarsheng, who had a relatively open personality, could not bear it and was jumping up and down. Everyone listened and smiled without saying anything, silently recovering their energy. Yi Qinghan distributed the extreme divine gold divine liquid to everyone. Each person had about 2 taels. It was enough for everyone to temper their bodies. Everyone was cultivating their bodies in the hot spring. Divine light flowed, and treasure light soared into the sky. Feng Huang's aura rose the fastest. He had been suppressed for 30,000 years, and now that he had the resources, his aura rose much faster than the others. Yi Qinghan and the others were cultivating. Outside the door, several beautiful women arrived. They were all massage experts. They pushed open the door and entered. They were called to their hot springs by Fan Yin. Soon, the moans of the beauties filled the air. At first, it was Fan Yin's cries, but later, it led the others to join in as well. However, Yi Qinghan and the others cultivated in silence, blocking out the sounds of the outside world. Time flew by. 4 hours passed. After Fan Yin and the others rested, they put on their clothes. However, Yi Qinghan and the others were still cultivating their bodies. Their auras intertwined and rose, becoming stronger and stronger. After Fan Yin put on his clothes, he ran over to Yi Qinghan's side of the hot spring. When he saw that everyone had divine gold divine liquid in their hands, he immediately raised his leg and kicked Yi Qinghan. "You brat, I've been so good to you, but you didn't even give me a drop of the extreme divine gold divine liquid. Now everyone has a share. Could it be that your sexual orientation is different from others? Do you like men?" Fan Yin roared. Yi Qinghan was startled awake and almost stepped into the hot spring. He hurriedly grabbed the leg that was kicking him and subconsciously flung it, dragging Fan Yin into the hot spring. When he woke up, he immediately pulled her into his arms. His hand just happened to grab the peak. It was too big and difficult to control with one hand. Hua! A murderous aura rushed into the clouds, waking Feng Huang and the others. Swish! Swish! Feng Huang, Lin Wutian, and the others grabbed their clothes and ran out of the hot spring, leaving Yi Qinghan alone in the hot spring. Yi Qinghan's mouth was wide open, his hands still pressed against the peak. He was completely stunned by this scene. Huff! Huff! Fan Yin's breathing was ragged, her eyes like lanterns. The anger in her eyes was almost ignited, and the temperature of the hot spring was rising rapidly, almost boiling. Murderous aura! Yes, murderous aura filled the air. Fan Yin clenched her fist and directly grabbed Yi Qinghan's wrist that was resting on her chest. She fiercely twisted it, almost breaking the bones in his hand. Roar! Senior Sister Fan Yin, I didn't do it on purpose. A mournful scream resounded through the courtyard. Yi Qinghan felt like he was being humiliated by 100,000 burly men. He struggled several times, but was unable to climb out of the hot spring. Kaki. Fan Yin gnashed her teeth, standing in front of Yi Qinghan. Her ear-piercing voice exploded in Yi Qinghan's heart, almost bursting it. Yi Qinghan squatted in front of Fan Yin and smiled. "Senior sister, don't be angry. We can talk things over. I can satisfy any request of senior sister." Fan Yin was truly wonderful now. It was completely indescribable, but Yi Qinghan did not dare to have any feelings. He only hoped that this woman would not lose her mind. Ha ha! A cold laugh caused Yi Qinghan, who was squatting in the hot spring, to shiver. "I have important information. Senior sister will definitely be interested." Yi Qinghan's mind was spinning rapidly. Suddenly, a light flashed in his eyes, and he immediately raised his hand. "Speak," Fan Yin said angrily. "I have the whereabouts of the ultimate divine metal." Yi Qinghan looked at Fan Yin's clenched fist, and did not dare to keep her in suspense. He hurriedly said, "It's in the Sealing Heavens prison. I got the ultimate divine metal from there. But because I couldn't bring it out, I buried it in a mountain." "Do you really think Xia Jiulong is retarded? Would he allow me to enter the Sealing Heavens prison?" Fan Yin asked coldly. Seeing that the ultimate divine metal was unable to win Fan Yin's forgiveness, Yi Qinghan hugged Fan Yin's leg and said miserably, "Senior sister, don't make things difficult for me. At most, I'll take responsibility. Marry me." Fan Yin kicked Yi Qinghan out of the hot spring and went ashore. Her whole body was wet, and her clothes were almost transparent. Her holy land was completely presented in front of Yi Qinghan. She was so angry that she almost lost her mind. "Senior sister, change your clothes first. I'll let you punish me however you want. If you really don't want to marry me, I'll marry you instead." Yi Qinghan deliberately tried to smooth things over in an attempt to appease Fan Yin. Fan Yin was so angry that she was trembling. She pointed her jade finger at Yi Qinghan. She wanted to say something but did not know what to say. In the end, she went to the opposite side and changed her clothes. In the entire courtyard, only Yi Qinghan and Fan Yin were left. The others had already fled. Who would dare to provoke Fan Yin? Chapter 1955. In the courtyard, only Yi Qinghan and Fan Yin's breathing could be heard. The air was filled with hostility, and Yi Qinghan was also trembling with fear. Looking at Fan Yin's expression, he knew that if he didn't give her a good explanation today, he would die here. Fan Yin changed into a new set of clothes, but this set of clothes was more conservative. It covered most of her body, leaving only her jade-like arms exposed. But even dressed like this, she still had a creepy feeling in her heart. It was as if Yi Qinghan could see through her. She was traumatized. Bang! Fan Yin was flustered and exasperated. She kicked Yi Qinghan's thigh, causing him to retreat a few steps. Yi Qinghan laughed mockingly. He didn't dodge. Only by letting this woman vent her anger could he have a good life. Women were unreasonable. The more he dodged, the worse things would happen. "Senior sister, if you want to hit me, then hit me. My skin is thick and my flesh is thick. I'm just afraid that I'll hurt your delicate little hand," Yi Qinghan said wretchedly. Fan Yin also knew that Yi Qinghan was already a dead pig that wasn't afraid of boiling water. Even Xia Jiulong couldn't kill him without using his trump cards. It could be seen how terrifying his physical body was, so she couldn't be bothered to continue hitting him. She said shamelessly, "Kid, tell me today. How are you going to compensate me? Do you want me to cut off your hand or your dragon root?" Yi Qinghan hurriedly bowed and curtsied. He took Fan Yin's small hand and said, "Senior sister, don't do that. My hand and dragon root are always at your service. You can keep them first. If one day you're in a good mood and need them, you won't regret it, right? Anyway, your little brother is in your palm. I can't run away, right?" Fan Yin seemed to be confused by anger and did not hear what Yi Qinghan said. He even nodded seriously and said in a muffled voice, "That's true. Then tell me how I should deal with you." Yi Qinghan said flatteringly. Please calm down, senior marshal sister. As the saying goes, keep the goodies within the family. Junior marshal brother is still your junior marshal brother, and I didn't do it on purpose. How about I give you 2 caddies of divine gold divine liquid as an apology? In the future, if you have any small matters, just call me. I'll be at your beck and call, and I'll be at your service. Bulsh *t. Don't let your fertile water flow to your own fields. My fertile water will never flow to your side. Pa. Fanning slapped Yi Qinghan's big hand, pushing Yi Qinghan's hand away. The anger in his heart subsided a little, but he didn't give Yi Qinghan a good look. He turned his back to Yi Qinghan and asked coldly, How much divine gold divine liquid do you have? Don't lie to me. Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly and said, Senior marshal sister, I have to leave some to refine my body. I guess there's only about 20 caddies left. Give me 19 caddies, and you can deal with the rest yourself, Fanning said domineeringly. Yi Qinghan smiled awkwardly. Fortunately, he didn't reveal his true identity. Otherwise, she would have taken it all. If he gave Fanning 19 caddies, there would still be about 100 caddies left, which would be enough for the people of the Kuang sect. Without hesitation, he took out 19 caddies of divine gold divine liquid and gave it to Fanning. Fanning saw that Yi Qinghan was quite straightforward, and her anger had subsided after receiving the benefits. She put away the divine gold divine liquid and reached out to pinch Yi Qinghan's ear. She snorted and said, You're lucky today. How did it feel to touch it? Soft, big, top grade. Yi Qinghan smiled wickedly. Bang! Fanning kicked Yi Qinghan directly into the hot spring. She clapped her hands and walked into the inn in the front yard. Yi Qinghan was beaten up, and he knew that today's matter was over. Although he had lost face, the taste just now was indeed memorable. He climbed out of the hot spring, sniffed his hands, and changed into a new set of clothes with a smile. Sure enough, if you die under the skirt of a beauty, you'll still be a romantic ghost. Boss is also a man. The divine bird ran out and sneered wretchedly. Go to hell. Yi Qinghan snapped back and stepped into the front yard. In the front yard's hall, Lin Wutian and the others were already sitting in the central area, eating with relish. They were not worried about Yi Qinghan's suffering. Fanning came to the hall. She had gained some benefits and taught Yi Qinghan a lesson, so she was in a good mood. She sat down with a smile and stretched out her hand to ask for a few jars of the best Drunken Immortal wine. The people in Drunken Immortal House recognized her now and did not dare to refuse. They quickly brought over a few jars of Drunken Immortal wine. This was Drunken Immortal House's signature wine. A jar of Drunken Immortal wine could keep an immortal. As the name implied, after drinking a jar, even an immortal could stay and sleep. There was no way to leave. Come, drink with me, Fanning said forthrightly. Emperor Yi still had some conscience. He asked, Senior sister, where is my husband? I gave him a beating. He's now in the backyard reflecting on his mistake. Don't worry about him. That idiot, he really pisses me off. Fanning's anger rose again at the mention of Yi Qinghan. Everyone laughed and did not ask any more questions. They all drank with Fanning. At this time, Yi Qinghan arrived late. Seeing that everyone was eating happily and had forgotten about him, he cursed inwardly. This group of disloyal bastards. They sold me out just like that. Yi Qinghan came to the table. Coincidentally, there was only one seat beside Fanning. But before he could sit down, Fanning kicked the chair aside and said coldly, There's no seat. Eat standing. Everyone lowered their heads and snickered, especially Lin Wutian and Yen Yunbei. They knew that Yi Qinghan was a man of his words. Today, he was beaten up by a woman and did not even dare to resist. How could they not take pleasure in his misfortune? Yi Qinghan curled his lips and pulled a chair over to sit beside Fanning. He picked up a jar of Drunken Immortal wine and opened the seal. A wave of fragrance assailed his nostrils. It was intoxicating. The smell of wine went straight to his brain. Good wine. Yi Qinghan knew how to brew wine. But at this moment, he had to admit that this drunken immortal wine was the best wine he had ever encountered. Drink this jar and I will forgive you. Fan Yin's eyes flashed with a playful light, but she said expressionlessly. Yi Qinghan did not even think about it. He picked up the jar and drank wildly. When he drank half, a wave of wine rushed into his sea of consciousness. He felt dizzy. It was neither strong nor soft. The combination of yin and yang flowed through his limbs and bones. He felt as if his whole body was floating. Soon after, Yi Qinghan discovered that he had lost control of the spiritual energy in his body. It was actually operating on its own, forming a large circle in a strange way. His divine power had actually improved a little. Although it was only a little, it was enough to shock Yi Qinghan. What kind of wine is this? Yi Qinghan's body reeked of wine. His brain was like paste. His body was floating and his legs were weak. He almost fell. Lin Wutian looked at Yi Qinghan's drowsy appearance and was speechless. He knew Yi Qinghan's alcohol tolerance very well, but half a jar of drunken immortal wine was enough to make him fall asleep. As expected of a jar of drunken immortal wine. It really is not for show. Emperor Yi exclaimed. Trash, you can't even finish a jar of drunken immortal wine. Watch me. Fan Yin was very domineering. She picked up the jar and drank. Although she spilled some, she did not leave a single drop. After a while, it was all in her stomach. Her body was floating, her face was red, and her eyes were shining. Yi Qinghan was even more unwilling to admit defeat. Plus, he had already drunk half a jar of drunken immortal wine. He felt that the heavens were number one, and he was number two. He picked up the jar and drank the rest of the drunken immortal wine. In an instant, his mind was in chaos and he fell to the ground. The essence blood in his body burned, and a layer of light blue flame appeared on his body. It was extremely terrifying. Chapter 1956. Yi Qinghan's divine body began to burn. His internal organs were being burned by the internal fire, and a treasure light flowed through his body, but he didn't have any consciousness. Fan Yin burst out laughing, his legs trembling. He couldn't even stand properly, but he still managed to stand up. With a mocking look on his face, he pointed at Yi Qinghan and said, I told you you're a piece of trash, but you didn't believe me. After drinking a jar of immortal wine, you collapsed. Fan Yin's voice was trembling, but he was still trying to show off. Yi Qinghan had inexplicably fallen to the ground and was unable to get up. Emperor Yi and Lin Wutian became anxious and hurriedly got up to help Yi Qinghan up. However, the moment they touched his body, they jumped back and retreated a few steps. His body is so hot. Will something happen to him? Emperor Yi asked Fan Yin anxiously. Fan Yin was confused, so he didn't care about Yi Qinghan. Emperor Feng said quietly, if any other mid-level cultivator drank a jar of drunken immortal wine, they would die without a doubt. But Brother Yi won't. His body is extremely holy, and his internal organs are far superior to others. Drinking a jar of drunken immortal wine will cause him to suffer, but there will also be benefit. Hearing Emperor Feng say this, everyone let out a sigh of relief. But letting Yi Qinghan lie in the middle of the hall with so many people staring at him wasn't appropriate. I'll take him to the courtyard to rest. He'll be fine in 3 to 5 days, and his strength will improve. Emperor Feng stood up, unafraid of Yi Qinghan's body heat. He carried him on his back and left the hall. In the courtyard alone, Yi Qinghan lay on the bed, his mind a mess. He felt his body heat up, and he couldn't stand it. He kept tearing his clothes, and the water in his body kept evaporating. Yang energy crushed yin energy, and yin energy couldn't be balanced. He could only desperately absorb the yin energy of heaven and earth. A treasure light bathed the courtyard like an immortal light. Even Yi Qinghan was enveloped by the light. Feng Huang looked at Yi Qinghan and knew he couldn't help him, so he left the room. Inside the room, Yi Qinghan's impurities were constantly being expelled from his body. The immortal brew in his body was like a burning divine fire, causing his blood to boil. Gurgle gurgle. Yi Qinghan could no longer endure the boiling sounds coming from within his body. His entire body had turned scarlet red, and a large hole had been burned through the specially made bed. He collapsed onto the stone floor. The individual residences all had spell formations. The stone slabs transmitted waves of energy, isolating Yi Qinghan from the high temperature. Crack crack, Yi Qinghan dug his fingers into the ground, and his body temperature rose higher and higher. His impurities were almost completely cleansed, forming a perfect body. Perhaps even Xia Zhilong would drool over such a body. Time slowly passed. The others were still drinking in the hall, using the immortal wine to change their bodies and temper their bodies. They seemed to have forgotten about Yi Qinghan. Fan Yin was making use of the alcohol to throw a tantrum. Fortunately, no one went to provoke her, or the entire drunken immortal residence would be torn down. Let me tell you, when I was young, I drank 3 jars of this drunken immortal brew without falling. Someone gave me the title of immortal without falling drunk after 1,000 cups. As long as you come to the drunken immortal residence often, who doesn't know me? Fan Yin seemed to be a little off-topic. She was talking with a group of juniors, exaggerating her achievements. On the 3rd floor of the drunken immortal residence, at a table by the side, were the son of war and Zhang Jiuxiao. Zhang Jiuxiao didn't seem to know much about Fan Yin, so he asked curiously, "Big brother son of war, is this senior sister Fan Yin really like what she said? Can she drink 3 jars of drunken immortal brew without falling drunk after 1,000 cups?" The son of war took a sip of the drunken immortal wine. His lips curled up as he snorted, listened to her boasting. 1,000 cups of drunken immortal wine is something that only eternal sovereigns can withstand. However, this drunken immortal wine is truly priceless. A cup of it weighs 500 kilograms of faith. The average person can't afford to drink it. Take me for example, I don't usually drink it either. I only drink it once every 100 years. If I were to drink an entire jug like her, I'm afraid I would end up like Yi Qinghan, collapsing on the spot. Zhang Jiuxiao took small sips of the drunken immortal brew. It wasn't that he didn't want to drink, but that he couldn't bear to. A jar of drunken immortal brew cost 1,000,000 in faith. Only Fan Yin would ask for 10 jars at once. Looking around, most people in the entire restaurant only asked for a cup or a jar for the entire table. The guests on the 2nd and 3rd floor stared at Fan Yin's table. Their eyes couldn't leave the 10 jars of wine on the table, and they couldn't wait to go up and drink. About 2 hours later, Fan Yin actually slowly finished 2 jars of wine. Her eyes began to burn, and her mouth was dry. She couldn't speak properly, and her legs were completely unstable. "I'm not in a good state today. I'll tell you about it another day." Fan Yin burped and continued, "I'll blow it for you next time. I'll go back and lie down for a while." After saying that, Fan Yin left the hall and went straight to the solitary courtyard at the back. "Do you want to send her back? She looks really drunk," Lin Wutian asked. "No need. She can drink so much. It's only 2 jars. How can she not touch her bed?" Emperor Yi firmly believed in Fan Yin and immediately replied, Come. Let's continue drinking. There are still 5 jars left. They've all been opened. It'll be a waste if we don't drink them." It was rare for Yan Yunbei to open his mouth. He had already drunk more than half of the jar alone. However, he drank slowly. Until now, his face was only red, but he didn't feel drunk. Upstairs, the son of battle and Zhang Jiuxiao both drank a jar. At this moment, they finished it all. Even the bottom of the jar was emptied. The son of battle pursed his lips and smiled. "Come, let's go down and get some wine." Zhang Jiuxiao only drank a little more than a cup. He was in high spirit. When he heard that they were going down, he ran down first. The two went downstairs with faces full of smiles. The son of battle said to everyone, "What a coincidence! Dao friend Feng Huang, Ferrier, you're both drinking here." Seeing that the son of battle had come, everyone's spirits rose. After all, the son of battle had saved them once. If he hadn't arrived in advance, Yi Qinghan and Fan Yin definitely wouldn't have had the chance to save them. "Come, come, come. Brother Jean, come and sit. Let's drink together. We happen to have enough wine." Emperor Yi straightforwardly greeted him. They were drinking. However, they didn't expect Fan Yin to fall to the ground several times with her legs crossed. After entering the courtyard, she looked at the courtyard and realized that the world was spinning. She didn't even know where her room was. Hence, she went straight to Yi Qinghan's room. Yi Qinghan had already dismantled his bed and was lying on the floor. He took off his clothes and leaned against the floor, hoping to cool down a little. At this moment, Fan Yin pushed open the door and entered. She felt hot all over. Her mind was muddled and her vision was blurry. Before she could see clearly, she fell down beside Yi Qinghan. She kept scratching her chest and sweating profusely. She quickly took off her clothes and fell asleep beside Yi Qinghan. At this moment, no one knew if Fan Yin would go crazy when she woke up. Chapter 1957. After everyone had finished eating and drinking, they walked back from the restaurant in the front yard. Emperor Yi was curious and wanted to see how Yi Qinghan was doing. When he pushed the door open and entered, his eyes almost popped out of their socket. The scene in the room was extremely funny. Fan Yin was practically naked. She was hugging Yi Qinghan's long leg and gnawing on it as if she was hugging a pig's trotter. Yi Qinghan was groggy. His body temperature had dropped a lot, but he didn't feel anything. "How is master?" Lin Wutian walked over and asked. Emperor Yi was shocked and quickly stopped him. "Don't come over." Senior Fan Yin ran to the wrong room. "She's also in this room. You go rest first. I'll bring her back to her room." Lin Wutian was speechless. He couldn't imagine what Fan Yin would do when she woke up and saw that scene. He didn't dare to imagine it, so he turned and left. Emperor Yi closed the door and hurriedly took out his own clothes and draped them over Fan Yin's body. He wanted to pull her away from Yi Qinghan, but she hugged his thigh tightly and was unwilling to let go. "Don't touch me! Don't touch my baby!" Fan Yin impatiently swung her left hand, trying to push Emperor Yi's arm away. Emperor Yi took a step back, afraid that Fan Yin would kill him in her drunken stupor. But when he saw Fan Yin grab Yi Qinghan's little brother with her left hand, he didn't know what she thought it was. She opened her mouth and bit it. Emperor Yi was shocked. If she bit it off, then he would be a widow for the rest of his life. How could he let her have her way? He immediately rushed forward to protect the dragon's root and shouted loudly, "Senior Sister Fan Yin, have you gone mad? Wake up! You're in the wrong room. Look at what you're holding in your hand." Fan Yin opened her sleepy eyes and looked at the thing in her hand, then looked around. She jumped 3 feet high and immediately woke up. She grabbed the jacket Emperor Yi had put on her and was about to explode in anger. "Senior Fan Yin, don't be angry. Look at the room you're in. Is it yours? You're in the wrong room. You were the one who took off your own clothes. I don't even know if you were the one who took off his clothes. He doesn't feel anything right now. If you get angry at him, he'll really be wronged to death." Emperor Yi hurriedly explained. Only then did Fan Yin react. With an embarrassed expression, he looked at the layout of the room and said awkwardly, "Did I enter the wrong room? No one else knows that I entered his room, right? No one else has seen my body, right?" Emperor Yi was speechless. He took out a piece of clothing and covered Yi Qinghan's body. "Wutian knows that you came in, but he doesn't know what happened. Only I saw it, so don't worry. I didn't put that thing in my mouth, did I?" Fan Yin recalled the events of the dream and looked at Yi Qinghan's majestic little brother. She couldn't help but feel a chill run down her spine. Her entire body trembled as she hurriedly asked. Emperor Yi wasn't sure if Fanine had put that thing in her mouth before he came. However, he didn't dare to anger Fanine. He said with certainty, "No, I stopped it in time." Fanine immediately heaved a sigh of relief. She held Emperor Ye's hand and said, "You're really my sister. If I had put that thing in my mouth, I wouldn't be able to live for the rest of my life." Emperor Yi smiled bitterly. How was this thinking for her? He was afraid that she would bite it off and he would become a widow. Although Yi Qinghan could refine his body again, that would be a shadow for the rest of his life. "Sister, as long as you're happy," Emperor Yi said against his will. Fanine laughed awkwardly. She shrank her head and said, "Good sister, you can't tell anyone about what happened today, especially not to Yi Qinghan, that bastard." With that, Fanine took advantage of the darkness to escape from Yi Qinghan's room. Emperor Yi watched Fanine leave the room. He sighed and shook his head. Then, he squatted down and put on Yi Qinghan's clothes. Using his divine power, he carried him to his room and threw him onto the bed. He scolded in a tender voice, "This little thing, how big of a trouble did he cause?" Yi Qinghan was also unlucky. He was so drunk that he didn't feel anything. However, he enjoyed a comical romantic encounter. It was a pity that he couldn't feel it. However, his body was indeed stronger than others. If it were someone else who drank a jar of drunken immortal wine, even if they didn't die, they would be crippled. However, the next morning, although he had a splitting headache, he was still awake. He looked at Emperor Yi beside him and immediately turned over to press him into his arms. His face was full of impulsive desire. "Don't. This is no small matter. My father in this life is not an ordinary person. If you want to get on the bus first and then buy the ticket later, he will beat you to a pulp." Emperor Yi hurriedly stopped him. Yi Qinghan was emboldened by the wine. That kind of desire was very strong. How could he endure it? However, seeing that Emperor Yi was unwilling, he could only grit his teeth and bear with it. Emperor Yi hurriedly reached out to comfort his big darling. He reminded him, "Husband, don't provoke senior sister Fanine. Otherwise, you won't have a good time." Yi Qinghan was puzzled and asked, "Why? I didn't offend her." "It's better if you don't know. Anyway, listen to me. It's best if you stay away from her. Don't let her find a reason to flip out. I'm doing this for your own good." Emperor Yi faintly reminded him. Yi Qinghan smiled and didn't say anything else. He reached out and hugged the little beauty in his arms. His large hand reached into her clothes and kneaded her huge breasts, causing Emperor Yi to pant. However, not long after, Fanine shouted from outside, "Yi Qinghan, get out here. I have something important to discuss with you today." Yi Qinghan was helpless. He could only reluctantly let go of Emperor Yi. He put on his clothes and walked out. Emperor Yi was worried that Fanine would explode, so he followed him out. There was a pavilion in the courtyard. Fanine was already sitting on a stone stool inside. She acted as if nothing had happened. Yi Qinghan walked over and asked in a muffled voice, "Senior sister, how did I offend you again?" When Fanine heard Yi Qinghan's words, anger rose from the bottom of her heart. She couldn't wait to beat up Yi Qinghan. However, when she saw Emperor Yi coming over, she had to endure it. "I want to talk to you about the immortal elixir. In short, you can't send the immortal elixir to the martial Tao True Monarch Holy Lands. If you don't believe me, you can ask the true inheriting disciples of other holy lands. If that old man from Wu clan gets the right to use an immortal elixir, he will definitely not give it to your little wife. You're dreaming. Wu clan's true inheriting disciples represent his inheritance. If he has the opportunity to train his true inheriting disciples into eternal sovereigns, do you think he will give it up?" Fanine reminded him in a deep voice. Yi Qinghan frowned and asked, "The eternal sovereign behind me can't help me refine the immortal elixir for the time being. I have to find an eternal sovereign to help me refine the immortal elixir. Fanine spoke up impatiently. Are you stupid? You're now a member of my Transcending Heaven school. If I go to my old man and ask him to refine the eternal elixir, will he charge you an extra one? Yi Qinghan curled his lips and replied in a speechless manner. I don't know him. How would I know? This is an eternal immortal elixir, not some random elixir. I have to be careful. Do you believe your senior sister? Fanine patted her chest and asked. Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes and asked, Can I believe you? Chapter 1958. Yi Qinghan's rhetorical questions stumped Fanine. How long had they known each other? If she wanted to rely on the two secret techniques in the immortal text to convince him, then it would be too easy. Fanine stared at Yi Qinghan with wide eyes, but he didn't back down. Senior apprentice sister, it's not that I don't believe you, but you know the value of eternal pills better than I do. This thing is not a bet. I have to keep 2 or 3 immortal pills in my hand. Dawn is one of my people, at least half of it. Our crazy sect only has 1 immortal pill, and only 1 is left. I have to get it back to the crazy sect and let my beloved wife and son take it, or let me take it. At the very least, it has to be someone trustworthy like Emperor Feng, right? Yi Qinghan explained. I found that you, kid, have a really big taste. You can't wait to take all the good things to your crazy sect. Fanine spoke up with anger. Hee, senior apprentice sister knows me best. Yi Qinghan spoke with a flattering smile. Okay, I don't want to talk nonsense with you. I'll go back and ask my old man, and then come find you. Fanine impatiently waved her hand and reprimanded. Then, many thanks, senior apprentice sister. When I become rich in the future, I will definitely show my filial piety to you. Yi Qinghan still had that flattering smile on his face, which made Fanine even angrier. But at this moment, a crisp knock came from outside the door. Sirs inside, 2 elders from the Situ clan have come. They say they want to invite all of you over for a meal as a show of hospitality. I wonder if you'll be going or not. A female voice came from outside the door. It should be a servant girl from the Immortal Intoxication residence. Fanine stretched and sighed. It's really annoying. Every time they come to invite me, I think I've already refused twice. As the saying goes, you can't do it more than 3 times. If I refuse again, it would be a bit unreasonable. Fanine muttered to herself, then turned to Yi Qinghan and said, Go and reply to them. Tell them to make the arrangements tomorrow. I have to rush back. Now that Yi Qinghan had gained some benefits, he naturally did not have to worry about running errands. He got up and walked to the gate of the courtyard. When he opened the door, he saw a servant girl and 2 old men behind her. They were all upper-level masters, but they kept a low profile, as if they were afraid of Fanine. Yi Qinghan looked at the 2 elders, cupped his fists and bowed slightly. Greetings, seniors. My senior sister has asked you to prepare. You can do it tomorrow. The 2 old men outside the door were overjoyed. They cupped their fists and said, Thank you, little brother. Please bring the others with you tomorrow. My Situ family will definitely be honored. Yi Qinghan thanked him profusely. After all, the Situ clan was one of the 100 great clans. Since they had already said so much, wouldn't it be disrespectful if he didn't go? Maybe the small gift from the Situ clan would be enough to feed the Kuang sect for a few years. After sending off the 2 from the Situ clan, the Son of War came over with Zhang Jiuxiao before the door was closed. Sect Master Yi, did you drink to your heart's content yesterday? Why don't I treat you to a meal this afternoon? Let's find a restaurant with a unique style and have a drink? The Son of War said with a smile. Yi Qinghan smiled. The Son of War had saved several lives of the Kuang sect. How could he not give him face? He quickly said, Brother Zhan is too polite. I should treat you to a meal to express my gratitude for your help at Xuejia Pass. I hope Brother Jean will give me some face. Ha ha, Sect Master Yi is too polite. After all, my Jean family has a share of the celestial elixir. If we lose it, we will be at a disadvantage. But since Sect Master Yi said so, let's have a meal together. I am the host here. I know many places that are not inferior to the drunken immortal house. The son of war was very forthright. The people of the war clan were like this. They were never polite to their enemies and were never stingy to their friends. Yi Qinghan was full of smiles. He was naturally happy to make friends with people like the son of war. However, there were still many people in the room. He asked, Brother Jean, should we call senior sister Fanine? The son of war heard this and quickly waved his hand. He whispered, Please don't. This woman is crazy after drinking. She loves to brag. The key is that she is too strong. None of us can control her. This meal will be just the three of us. You and Jiuxiao have met before. We are all acquaintances. It is convenient to eat together. Yi Qinghan did not see Fan Yin's drunken and boastful look last night. Otherwise, it would have been fresh in his mind. Hearing the son of war's words, he quietly closed the door and left the courtyard with the son of war. It was a good opportunity to lie low for a while. Fan Yin had indeed been looking for trouble with Yi Qinghan recently. It was just that she had not found a good reason. When they reached the front yard of the drunken immortal residence, Yi Qinghan said to a manager, Give me 3 jars of drunken immortal wine. I will pack it up and take it away. Put the bill on Fan Yin's head. I am her junior brother. We came together yesterday. You have met before. The manager's mouth twitched. Thinking of the manager who was beaten up by Fan Yin yesterday, he trembled. He did not dare to ask any more questions and took out 3 jars of drunken immortal wine. Yi Qinghan took the 3 jars of drunken immortal wine and handed one to the son of war and Zhan Jiuxiao. The 3 of them quickly left the drunken immortal residence. On the main road of Xuejia Pass, there were many pedestrians. They were all unfamiliar faces. Most of the people did not know each other. They were all from different places. The outside world was so vast. Even a saint like Zhan Jiuxiao, who had shown his face in public, was not recognized by many people, let alone Yi Qinghan and the true disciple, the son of war. The son of war probed, Sect Master Yi, you seem to have offended Xia Jilong. Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes and snorted, I did not offend him. He offended me. I just entered the Holy Empire, and he threw me into the heaven-sealing prison. How could our relationship be good? The son of war and Zhan Jiuxiao looked at each other. In the world, only Yi Qinghan would dare to say that Xia Jilong had offended them. But he didn't get anything out of it. He offended me, so I took Feng Huang out of the prison. We're even now, but he seems to have his eyes on me. Yi Qinghan shrugged and told them about their feud. Brother Ye's temper is to my liking. Ha ha. Interesting. All these years, the core disciples have been quite harmonious. Everyone gives Xia Jilong face. Xia Jilong doesn't want to compare himself with younger core disciples like us, so there hasn't been a battle between legendary experts. You, on the other hand, fought him as soon as you advanced to the legendary level, the son of war whispered with a laugh. I'll definitely fight him more than once. As long as he doesn't reach the upper level, he won't be able to kill me. Yi Qinghan said confidently. The son of war shook his head and reminded him, don't underestimate him. He was the strongest person at the same level back then. He wasn't joking around. 2 days ago, when he fought you, he only used 10% of his power. He didn't even use his true profound. I advise you to avoid him before you reach the next level. Yi Qinghan wasn't going to admit defeat, but he knew the son of war had good intentions. He didn't say anything more about Xia Jilong. The 3 of them walked along the official road. The road was connected in all directions, and there were restaurants and inns everywhere. After all, this was where all the holy lands intersected. People came from the south and went north, and they all came here to replenish their supplies. So, this was the busiest business district. But when there were too many people, there was bound to be conflict. When Yi Qinghan and the Son of War reached a crossroad, they heard the sound of an argument coming from the crowd. Many people were pointing and talking as if they were angry. Yi Qinghan didn't want to be a busybody. After all, he still had the immortal medicine. But for some reason, he subconsciously walked toward the crowd to see what was going on. Chapter 1959. At the crossroad, there were many people around. They were all pointing and gossiping, but they didn't dare to say anything. There was a little girl in the crowd. Her face was white and her skin was smooth. She looked like she was only 14 or 15 years old. She hadn't even developed, but her cultivation was at the 7th or 8th level of the Sector Lord realm. In terms of talent, this little girl should be considered top grade. At this moment, the little girl's big watery eyes stared at the few youths in front of her. She pouted and said, "Go away. I don't even know you guys." "What do you mean you don't know us? How dare you steal my chessboard? Are you tired of living? Be careful that I don't sell you to the brothel today." The leading youth scolded angrily. Looking at his expression, it seemed like something was really stolen. "That's my chessboard. You're spouting nonsense." The little girl kept retreating, but the surrounding people blocked her path of retreat. "How can a little kid like you have such a high-grade chessboard? That's the star chessboard passed down from my ancestors. It's a mid-grade saint artifact. Quickly give it to me and I won't pursue the matter." The youth stretched out his hand and demanded. Yi Qinghan, who was standing at the periphery, was suddenly stunned. Star chessboard, this name was too familiar. Scram! Yi Qinghan forcefully pushed the crowd away. Some people wanted to turn around and scold him, but he slapped them in the face. Although he didn't use much strength, it was enough to make them dizzy. They retreated to the side in a daze. The son of battle looked curiously at Yi Qinghan and walked over. Yi Qinghan saw the little girl in the crowd and frowned. He felt that she was very familiar. She looked like Lin Shui, who he sealed. However, Lin Shui was only 8 or 9 years old then. Now, she was already a young lady. Her overall appearance had changed a lot, but the outline was still there. Plus the star chessboard mentioned by the youth, he was basically 60 to 70% sure. "You are Lin Shui?" Yi Qinghan raised his brows and asked. Shui Lin had changed a lot, but Yi Qinghan had not changed much. At most, he had become 30% stronger, and his aura had increased by 30%. Therefore, she recognized Yi Qinghan at a glance. Wah! Lin Shui had wandered the great world for 1,000 years. Because of her bloodline, her growth was not obvious. Her heart was still very pure. When she saw Yi Qinghan, it was like seeing a long-lost relative. She threw herself at him and burst into tears. At this moment, Yi Qinghan was even more certain. He hurriedly comforted her. "Don't cry. Didn't I seal you in the 9 continents' divine dragon cauldron? Why did he leave that place?" "Uncle, I just suddenly woke up. I didn't know anyone there, so I left. I entered the big world and walked for a long time, but I couldn't find you. Boo-hoo. So many people bullied me," Shui Lin said while wiping her tears. At this time, the reckless young man interrupted the two of them and said coldly, "Since you are her guardian, then it's easy to deal with her. She stole my chessboard. You tell me how to deal with her." Yi Qinghan patted Shui Lin's head and licked his lip. He looked at the young man with an evil smile. Judging by his clothes, he should be from a powerful sect. He was in the middle level, and there were a few people in the lower level with him. It could be said that he had strength in numbers and was very powerful. They are from the Tian Luo sect, one of the top 3,000 sections. This guy is Hu Tianming, who is ranked 3rd among the younger generation of the Tian Luo sect. Zhang Jiuxiao said secretly. Yi Qinghan nodded silently. He stared at Hu Tianming and said, "Are you sure that my girl stole your chessboard?" "Very sure. The people around me are all witnesses. As for the evidence, it is in her arms, Hu Tianming said in a deep voice. Humph! Yi Qinghan snorted and glanced at the chessboard in Xuelin's arms. That was not a middle-level sacred weapon. It was definitely an eternal sacred weapon. It was just that it had not been awakened. Once it was awakened, it could even flatten Xuejia Pass. Gotcha! Yi Qinghan clenched his fist and loosened it silently. He said coldly, "Get lost. I won't argue with you. Hey kid, don't think that you can do whatever you want just because you are in the middle level. This is Xuejia Pass. It's not a place for you to behave atrociously. Give me the chessboard and I won't argue with you." Hu Tianming stepped forward aggressively and reached out to grab Xuelin. Slap. Boom. Yi Qinghan moved like lightning and slapped Hu Tianming's face. He directly smashed Hu Tianming through the stone floor and into the deep pit. Buzz! Hu Tianming's mind was in a daze. He could not hear anything. His eyes were filled with stars and he could not feel anything. After a long time, his body was still twitching. How dare you? You dare to do this to the third senior brother of the Tianluo sect. You despicable person. You allowed the younger generation to steal our sect's treasure, and you even sneak attack. Do you not put the Tianluo sect in your eyes? The few lower-level youths beside Hu Tianming did not dare to make a move. They all shouted angrily, hoping to scare Yi Qinghan away with their sects behind them. At this time, those who were watching the show all stayed far away and discussed. They naturally knew the power of a strong sect. Offending a strong sect would not end well. Yi Qinghan was just about to kill this group of scum when the Son of War quickly said, "Let Jiuxiao deal with it. They probably don't know me. It's beneath me to argue with this group of kids." Yi Qinghan also did not want to start a massacre in the city, so he nodded and agreed. The Son of War quickly signaled Zhang Jiuxiao, who was standing far away. Zhang Jiuxiao jogged over and asked, "Big brother, what's the matter?" "Deal with this place and find us at Yunduan Tower later," the Son of War said calmly. "Yes, big brother, don't worry. I promise to deal with it properly," Zhang Jiuxiao quickly replied. He did not have the prestige of a saint. However, with so many people gathered here, there were bound to be people who were more knowledgeable. Suddenly, someone shouted, "That person is the Battle Clan's holy son, Zhang Jiuxiao. F***ck. He actually became the lackey of those two. I didn't even dare to recognize him." The moment this was said, the situation was instantly messed up. However, Yi Qinghan and the Son of War had already left with Lin Shui. Only Zhang Jiuxiao was left to deal with the aftermath. The Tianluo sect disciples were pale as they looked at Zhang Jiuxiao. After a moment of careful observation, they realized that Zhang Jiuxiao's identity was really that of a saint. However, the saint had actually become the one to deal with the aftermath. Then who were the two that left? You really are the Battle Tribe's saint." A young man trembled as he asked in fear. "Humph!" Zhang Jiuxiao snorted coldly. "You guys are really looking for death. How dare you bully our Zhan family? Do you want our Zhan family's ancestral weapon to be given to your Tianluo sect?" Plop! The few lower realms were so scared that they knelt on the ground. They kept kowtowing and begging, "Sir Saint, please spare our lives. We didn't know that they were from your Zhan family." "You can bully them just because they're not from the Zhan family? Let me tell you the truth. That little girl and her elders are not from my Zhan family. Why don't you tell everyone that the chessboard really belongs to your Tianluo sect? Let's make things clear. Don't say that I used my identity to bully your Tianluo sect," Zhang Jiuxiao said coldly. Hu Tianming was dizzy from Yi Qinghan's beating. He crawled out of the pit with a face full of anger. Before he could see Zhang Jiuxiao's face, he roared, "How dare you sneak attack me? I'll kill you today." Puff! Boom! Zhang Jiuxiao used some of his god power and smashed Hu Tianming into the pit again. Hu Tianming did not even have the chance to breathe before he fainted. Chapter 1960. After Zhang Jiuxiao knocked Hu Tianming out, he remembered that he had to reveal the truth. Otherwise, people would think that the war race was bullying others. Bang! Slap, slap, slap. Zhang Jiuxiao lifted Hu Tianming out of the pit and smashed him on the ground, giving him a few slaps. Hu Tianming woke up in a daze. He opened his eyes and realized that it was the war race's holy son, Zhang Jiuxiao. The two of them didn't have much interaction, they just knew each other. Hu Tianming, I won't beat around the bush. Say it clearly in front of everyone. Did that little girl really steal your chessboard? Don't lie. Otherwise, I'll get your master to personally come and explain it to me. Zhang Jiuxiao warned coldly. Hu Tianming was a little confused. He didn't know the relationship between Zhang Jiuxiao and the three people who just left, but the two slaps were very painful. He was slapped in front of everyone. Obviously, he had lost all his face. What does this have to do with you? Is that girl from your Zhang family? Hu Tianming asked in a muffled voice. Don't talk nonsense with me. That girl isn't from my war race. But the youth beside her elder is my big brother, the war race's son of war. You insulted the brother of my war race's son of war, which is the same as insulting the war race's son of war. Tell everyone now whether that girl stole your chessboard or not. This involves the honor of my war race. If you dare to frame her, I'm afraid your Heaven Luo sect won't be able to handle it. Zhang Jiuxiao scolded angrily. Hu Tianming was drenched in cold sweat. He finally knew fear. He opened his mouth a few times to explain, but he didn't dare to speak carelessly. What? You want to tell everyone that my war race's son of war's brother is a sneaky person? As the saying goes, birds of a feather flock together. Is my big brother that kind of person? Zhang Jiuxiao sneered. Hu Tianming trembled. Insulting a true disciple of a sacred ground, even if he had 9 lives, it wouldn't be enough. He hurriedly knelt on the ground and explained in fear, Brother Holy Son, I was blind. I saw wrongly. The chessboard in that girl's arms isn't mine. I misunderstood her. You have to apologize for me. I'm willing to compensate. In the southwest of the Xuejia Pass, there was a swamp. A few luxurious villages were surrounded by rivers. This was a famous water manor in the Xuejia Pass. Willow branches hung down from both sides of the river, making it look like a fairyland. Spirit herbs were planted everywhere, and their fragrance assailed the nostrils. Some boats were drifting in the river, and occasionally, spirit birds would soar into the air, chirping endlessly. On a small boat, Yi Qinghan and the son of war stood side by side. Their black hair fluttered in the wind. Xuelin was already asleep on the boat. This place is rich in snowy arowana, a famous celestial fish. Its meat is delicate, fat but not greasy. Eating a single fish is equivalent to cultivating for 100 years. Even if we eat it, we will still have a rich aftertaste. The son of war stood at the bow of the ship, controlling the wind to steer the ship. There were only 2 people on the ship. They were handsome and had an extraordinary temperament. Yi Qinghan stood at the side, looking at the snowy arowana jumping out of the water. The big ones were half a meter long, and the small ones were the length of chopstick. At a rough glance they really did look like dragons. He didn't expect this kind of fish to have such an effect. I'm really ignorant. I've never heard of such a good thing before. Yi Qinghan sighed. Ha ha, brother Yi, it's because you haven't been here for long. Later, I will bring you to Yunduan restaurant to see their culinary skills. It will definitely make you forget your home. The son of war laughed. Yi Qinghan smiled. He knew that the son of war must have something to discuss with him in such a quiet place. He asked, Brother War, you didn't call me here today just to treat me to a meal of snowy arowana, right? The son of war smiled. Brother Yi is a smart man. I will not beat around the bush. With that, the small boat sped into the lake. There was no one around, not even a boat. This is a good place to chat. The son of war stopped the ship and sat at the bow. He took out a map and spread it on a small table. He pointed at a mountain range on the map and said, "This is the most dangerous mountain range in the outside world, called Coiling Dragon Mountain. It's also the entrance to the Coiling Dragon secret domain. This Coiling Dragon secret domain is not one of the 10 great secret domains, but a place where true disciples and top geniuses gather. Many experts of the older generation of powerful sects will enter this place to explore in search of immortal medicines and top-grade materials for forging divine weapons. There are vicious creatures here whose battle prowess is close to that of eternal sovereigns. Even Xia Zhilong wouldn't dare say he could come out alive if he encountered one. However, the danger is often proportional to the profit. There are also herbs here that are not inferior to the immortal medicines in your possession, but they are too rare." Yi Qinghan looked at the Son of War and asked with a frown, "Brother War, as the Son of War, you should know many of the true disciples of the major Holy Lands. Why did you choose me? My cultivation level is definitely not your ideal target." The Son of War smiled. "In terms of cultivation, I am surrounded by people who are stronger than you. Not to mention the other Holy Lands, even in my war clan, there are plenty of top experts of the previous generation who are stronger than me. If I want to find a helper, any one of them will do. However, I don't want a helper, but a partner. A person with a strong destiny. You are the best candidate." When it came to destiny, Yi Qinghan was very confident. He said indifferently, "Brother War is right. My luck is also very good. Of course, my divine pet also says that I am a jinx. Wherever I go, bad luck will follow. If you are not afraid, we can cooperate. I have already explored Hell, let alone Coiling Dragon Mountain." The Son of War smiled and shook his head. "Hell is often not the most terrifying place. As long as the Eternal Sovereign doesn't take action, I can also roam everywhere. However, Coiling Dragon Mountain is different. Those ferocious creatures do not care about feelings. As long as you encounter one, you either kill it or be killed. There is no other choice." "No problem. If I was afraid of death, I wouldn't have come this far. I also wouldn't have offended Xia Zhilong," Yi Qinghan said confidently. "I really didn't misjudge you. Then it's settled. After you deal with the immortal herbs, just you and me will not bring anyone else. Especially senior sister Fanine. You must not tell her. She will ruin everything," the Son of War reminded. Yi Qinghan nodded. Then, he suddenly recalled the man who had been tied up in the Ceiling Heaven prison. He probed, "Brother Jean, you're very experienced and knowledgeable. Do you know if there's anyone in this world who has the star mark and is surrounded by 9 stars? The Son of War thought for a moment and shook his head. "I haven't heard of it. Why? Have you seen it before?" Yi Qinghan immediately shook his head and replied, "No, I am just curious. The world is so big and there are so many strange things. I just want to see if there is anyone who has the sun, moon, and stars in a 9-star alignment in their body." At this moment, Zhang Jiuxiao rushed over on a wooden boat alone. The two looked at each other and smiled. They steered the boat towards the shore. Chapter 1961. Yi Qinghan and the Son of War rode the wind and waves. The boat was like lightning as it sailed across the water and reached the shore in the blink of an eye. Zhang Jiuxiao also caught up and said with a smile, "Big brother, Brother Yi, the matter over there has been settled." "Sorry to trouble you, Brother Jiuxiao." Yi Qinghan bowed slightly. The Son of War only nodded slightly and stepped onto the shore. Yi Qinghan went into the cabin and woke Lin Shui up. After so many years of mental exhaustion, Lin Shui could be said to have suffered all kinds of torture. She slept very well and was much more relaxed. Perhaps staying by Yi Qinghan's side was the safest. She did not have any psychological burden. "Little Shui, put your star chessboard in your mind. Do not take it out unless you have no other choice," Yi Qinghan reminded her. Lin Shui heard and quickly hid the star chessboard. She nodded like a chick pecking at rice. The four of them quickly walked towards the village. The Water Manor was not an ordinary village. The stone roads extended in all directions. The village was also very luxurious and had a rural feel to it. Yunduan Restaurant was located in the center of the Water Manor. There were many small restaurants around Yunduan Restaurant. Many people could not afford the food in Yunduan Restaurant and would eat snowy arowana in the other restaurants in the village. Although the ingredients were the same, the taste was completely different. The Son of War was very familiar with this place. It looked like he had been here many times. The three of them followed closely behind. After entering Yunduan Restaurant, they smelled a refreshing fragrance. Their pores seemed to have exploded. Yunduan Restaurant had a total of 3 floors. There were no private rooms. Everyone was in the main hall. The rooms were arranged in a triangular shape. Sitting on the 3rd floor, not only could they see the 1st and 2nd floors, but they could also see the entire Water Manor. Eating snowy arowana here was like standing there. "Let's go to the 3rd floor," the Son of War said lightly. The 3 of them followed. Tap tap tap. The 4 of them stepped onto the 3rd floor. The entire main hall came into view. However, the Son of War and Yi Qinghan were suddenly stunned. They could not help but clench their fists. Their battle strength quickly recovered as they focused on the table by the window. Xia Jilong and Xian Xiu were also in Yunduan Restaurant. Several pairs of eyes looked at each other, and there was surprise in their eyes. It was as if they did not expect to meet each other here. "What a coincidence, the Crown Prince is also here," the Son of War said with a smile. Xia Jilong was nonchalant, as if he didn't care about the 2 of them at all. He only nodded calmly as a greeting. There were also 4 jars of drunken immortal wine on their table. Xian Xiu sat opposite Xia Jilong, and his sword was placed on the corner of the table to his right. When he saw the Son of War and Yi Qinghan enter Yunduan Restaurant, his large hand involuntarily gripped the divine sword. Xia Jilong shook his head gently, indicating for Xian Xiu not to act recklessly here. Only then did Xian Xiu slowly put down the divine sword. The Son of War looked back at Yi Qinghan, as though he was seeking his opinion. However, Yi Qinghan did not want to retreat either. If he retreated now, wouldn't that mean that he was afraid of Xia Jilong? "Since we're here, let's take things as they come. I would like to try Yunduan Restaurant's snowy arowana," Yi Qinghan said with a smile. After saying that, Yi Qinghan came to a table in front of Xia Jilong's table. It was also by the window, and one could see half of the manor. The nearby mountains and rivers could be seen. It was as beautiful as a fairyland. Yi Qinghan did not choose to have his back facing Xia Jilong. Instead, he chose to face him. As soon as they sat down, their gazes met. Sparks flew, and killing intent was unconcealed. The Son of War sat on Yi Qinghan's left, and Lin Shui sat on his right. Zhang Jiuxiao sat between Yi Qinghan and Xia Jilong, blocking their line of sight. Zhang Jiuxiao felt goosebumps all over his body from their stares. He felt uncomfortable. "Calm down. Don't worry about their gazes. They won't be able to fight in Yunduan Restaurant," the Son of War reminded him expressionlessly. Zhang Jiuxiao smiled bitterly. He was not some legendary level. Who could stand being stared at by the Crown Prince like this? "Little Shui, my dear niece, shall I make a bowl with you?" Zhang Jiuxiao smiled awkwardly. Lin Shui did not answer. Instead, she looked at Yi Qinghan. Seeing Yi Qinghan nod, she moved her chair to Yi Qinghan's side, leaving more than half of the space for Zhang Jiuxiao. Zhang Jiuxiao quickly pulled his chair to Yi Qinghan's right side. This way, Yi Qinghan and Xia Jilong's line of sight was unobstructed. Xia Jilong was all smiles. There was a knife hidden in his smile. It looked like a smile, but it made one's hair stand on end. "Sect Master Yi, what a coincidence. We meet again. Come, let's have a drink across the table," Xia Jilong said with a smile as he raised his wine cup. Yi Qinghan took out the drunken immortal wine, poured a bowl of wine, and replied with a fake smile, "It's my honor to be toasted by the crown prince. I'll drink this bowl first as a sign of respect." With that, Yi Qinghan drank the entire bowl of drunken immortal wine. Heat surged into his limbs and bones. The burning and tearing sensation came again. His mind was in turmoil. However, it was much better than last time. It did not affect his combat power. Instead, it made his blood boil and his combat power increase. Xia Zhilong did not show any weakness. He drank the entire bowl of drunken immortal wine. After a while, 4 plates of fish were served. They were all snowy arowana. They were about twice the size of a chopstick. The 4 beautiful maids said respectfully, "Sir, please enjoy. If you have any special needs, just come. I'll be there at your beck and call." The aroma wafted into their noses. It was hot and appetizing. Yi Qinghan placed the largest plate of snowy arowana next to Lin Shui. He said gently, "Little Shui, eat as much as you want. There's more after you finish. You're still young. Don't drink wine. Eat more fish." Lin Shui pursed her lips and nodded. She quickly ate a few mouthfuls of fish. Then, she ate faster and faster. It was as if she had not eaten for hundreds of years. The son of war looked at Lin Shui and sighed. "It seems like this child has suffered a lot." Yi Qinghan clenched his fists and said in a low voice, "This is my fault. I promised her elders that I would take good care of her. If anything happens to her, I don't know how to explain it." Lin Shui just lowered her head and ate the fish. Tears fell as she ate. Yi Qinghan lowered his head and removed all the bones from the snowy arowana on his plate. He placed all the fat fish on Lin Shui's plate and wiped her tears with a handkerchief. He said dotingly, "Don't cry. I will arrange for people to take care of you in the future. I won't let anyone bully you anymore." The son of war smiled. He removed all the bones from his snowy arowana and pushed the plate in front of Lin Shui. He called for a maid and said, "Give us 4 more snowy arowana. Add a few more of your best dishes. Also, give me a pot of tea for this child." "I'm sorry, my lord. You should know the rules of Yunduan restaurant. The snowy arowana is limited. Each person is only allowed to eat 1 fish per day." The maid replied respectfully. The son of war waved his hand and took out a glittering golden plate. On it was engraved the word war. He casually tossed it to the maidservant and said, "Take this to your boss. He knows what to do." After the maid left, the 3rd floor quieted down. However, at this moment, Lin Shui's qi and blood surged. Her aura was majestic and her eyes flashed like stars. It was as if her entire body was a star. It was so dazzling. Xia Zhilong's eyes flashed. He grabbed the 9-dragon fan and locked his gaze on Lin Shui. Chapter 1962. Perhaps because Shui Lin ate 3 portions of snow dragonfish, her bloodline was stimulated. Her noble blood was awakened and her aura was boundless. Her body was as bright as the stars. Xia Zhilong immediately locked onto Shui Lin. His eyes were filled with doubt, but he couldn't confirm it. However, his hand was already holding onto the 9-dragon fan, ready to attack at any moment. Yi Qinghan and the son of battle looked at Xia Zhilong at the same time. They could see that he was ready to attack and were even more vigilant. Shui Lin didn't notice the changes in her body. She only knew that there was a warm current flowing in her body. Her cultivation level was climbing, instantly reaching Sector Lord Level 7 and then Sector Lord Level 8. It didn't stop there and was about to reach Sector Lord Level 9 or even perfection. Even Yi Qinghan was shocked by the speed of his advancement. Who is she?" the son of battle murmured. Yi Qinghan felt a flash of lightning. He suddenly felt that Shui Lin's current situation was familiar, but he didn't know where he had seen it before. "Sect leader Yi, who is this child?" Xia Zhilong stared at Shui Lin and asked in a low voice. Yi Qinghan immediately looked up at Xia Jilong and pretended to be calm. This is my niece. It's just that her body is a bit special. Crown Prince, please don't be too vigilant. But Xia Jilong didn't believe him. He looked at Shui Lin more and more suspiciously. What? Xia Jilong opened the 9-dragon fan and gently waved it. He looked dignified and extraordinary. His eyes were like lightning, as if he wanted to see through Shui Lin's nature. But moments later, the warm current in Shui Lin's body disappeared, as if it was absorbed by her body and bloodline. Everything returned to normal, as if nothing had happened. Shui Lin continued to eat the snow dragon fish. Her cultivation level charged to Sector Lord level 9, heading straight for perfection. Yi Qinghan was dumbfounded. Yi Qinghan didn't dare to let her eat more snow dragon fish. He took the plate to the side and smiled. Little Shui, let's eat something else first before we eat more snow dragon fish. Lin Shui smacked her lips and reluctantly looked at the snow dragon fish on the plate. She only stopped looking after Yi Qinghan took it away. Soon, the maid brought over 4 plates of snow arowana and a few side dishes. Yi Qinghan did not dare to let Shui Lin drink the immortal brew, so he placed tea and side dishes in front of her. The 4 of them ate in silence, preparing to quickly finish their meal and leave. Xia Jilong's gaze was too terrifying, as if he was ready to attack at any moment. Xian Xiu glanced at Shui Lin and said telepathically, "Your Highness, that girl is strange. Should we capture her first?" Xia Jilong nodded and replied in a low voice, "I know there's something wrong with her. Her bloodline isn't normal, but I'm afraid it won't be easy to catch her. I can win if the Son of War and Yi Qinghan team up, but it's too destructive and will cause trouble. Let's wait until we get out of Shuejia Pass." Because something happened to Shui Lin, Yi Qinghan did not dare to stay in Cloud Tower any longer. He hastily ate a meal and only drank a small portion of the immortal wine before putting it away. "Let's go back first." Yi Qinghan stood up and said. The 4 of them left Cloud Tower under Xia Jilong's gaze and quickly left the Water Manor. Xia Jilong watched the 4 of them leave and thought to himself. After a long while, he said indifferently, "This girl should be the orphan of the royal family of the Daluo astral realm. I hope I'm wrong, but I'd rather kill the wrong person than let her go. Xian Xiu, mobilize the Blood Strike Guards and capture this girl alive at all costs. If she really is the orphan of the Daluo astral realm, the star chessboard is very likely in her hands. Your Highness, Fanine is still with them. I'm afraid the Blood Strike Guards alone will not be able to take this girl away from her," Xian Xiu replied respectfully. Xia Jilong shook his head and said, "You don't have to worry about Fanine. Once they leave Shuejia Pass, I will lure her away." "Yes, Your Highness," Xian Xiu replied solemnly. Crack! Xia Jilong gently clenched his fist and smiled. He said confidently, "As long as I get the star chessboard and it supports my star art, no one in the world will be my match." Yi Qinghan already had a premonition that Xia Jilong would definitely make a move on Lin Shui. The pressure in his heart multiplied. Is the man with the 9 stars alignment in the sealed sky prison Lin Shui's elder? That person has stars on his back. When Lin Shui's bloodline was awakened, she had a similar temperament to that man. Perhaps they really are related. Yi Qinghan muttered to himself. He wasn't very sure. The 4 of them sped up and appeared in the drunken immortal residence an hour later. In the drunken immortal residence, Fanine was drinking to her heart's content. She seemed to be a drunkard. Lin Wuqian and the others felt their scalps go numb when they saw her drinking. "Where's that little bastard Yi Qinghan?" Fanine's eyes were red from drinking. She wanted to find an excuse to teach Yi Qinghan a lesson, but she didn't see him for a long time. She was going crazy. She glanced at everyone with a frightening gaze and asked in a muffled voice. At this moment, Yi Qinghan appeared in the drunken immortal residence with Lin Shui, the Son of War, and Zhang Jiuxiao. "Senior sister, let's stop drinking. Can we set off today and return to the insane sex camp immediately? Yi Qinghan quickly appeared on the third floor and asked in a low voice. Fanning looked at Yi Qinghan in confusion. She raised her eyebrows and asked, "Why?" "I'm not in a hurry." "Why are you in a hurry?" Yi Qinghan pulled Lin Shui over and said in a low voice, "Because of her, Xia Jilong is very interested in her. He's even prepared to make a move in the cloud tower of the Water Manor. It seems like he's determined to get her." Fanning looked at Lin Shui. She was 14 or 15 years old and still looked very young. Her spiritual aura was overwhelming. Looking at her always felt like looking at the stars, the sun, and the moon. Even if that special bloodline didn't explode, as long as one was a master, one could clearly feel it from far away. "Hey, where did this little girl come from? This bloodline looks very familiar." Fanning reached out to touch Lin Shui's face. Her eyes were shining like a pervert. Lin Shui was so scared that she quickly hid behind Yi Qinghan. She secretly looked at Fanning with her big watery eyes. "Come here and let me take a look. Don't be afraid. I'm a good person." Fanning deliberately smiled, but her smile was creepy. "Little Shui, don't be afraid. She's my senior sister." Yi Qinghan comforted her in a low voice. Only then did Lin Shui walk out from behind Yi Qinghan and give her little hand to Fanning. Fanning reached out to hold Lin Shui's wrist. Her spiritual consciousness wandered and saw that her body was like stars. Especially her sea of consciousness, which was as vast as the starry sky. She immediately withdrew her hand and looked at Yi Qinghan in surprise. "Where did you find this little girl?" "Many years ago, I sealed her in the divine dragon cauldron in the land of the 9 states, but she broke free on her own. She ran into the outside world and wandered around for many years. Today, I accidentally found her again. Senior sister, you must help me keep her identity a secret," Yi Qinghan said in a pleading tone. "But..." Fanning jumped up and slapped Yi Qinghan on the head. She hurriedly said, "Hurry up and leave. If you don't leave now, it will be too late. That idiot Xia Jilong will definitely send masters to help. I may not be able to protect you." After saying that, the group no longer spoke. They even abandoned the things in the backyard. "Old man, remember today's bill. I'll pay you the next time you come." Fanning came to the front desk and left with the group of juniors. Chapter 1963. Yi Qinghan and the others didn't hesitate any longer. After leaving Drunken Immortal Tavern, they ignored the Situ clan's invitation and left Snow Jia Pass immediately. Just as they left, a figure appeared on the walls of Snow Jia Pass. He looked down at the departing figures with a fierce glint in his eyes. His dragon robes fluttered in the wind, and his aura soared to the heavens. "Yi Qinghan, you won't be able to escape from my grasp. There are endless mountains and rivers under the heavens, and all living things are my slaves. How dare an ant like you defile my majesty? If you want to play, I'll play with you. However, the game has begun, and it's not up to you to stop it." Xia Jilong clenched his fists and stepped into the air, disappearing in a flash. Xian Xiu had the Crown Prince's decree and mobilized the Blood Strike Guards in Snow Jia Pass. They were the hidden experts of the Sacred Nation, and couldn't be used unless absolutely necessary. There were only 3 people in the world who could use them: the Sacred Nation's Sacred Lord, the Sacred Nation's Emperor, and the Sacred Nation's Crown Prince. Whoosh! Of the 100 experts, 13 of them were at the upper realm, similar to Xian Xiu. They blended into the crowd and left Snow Jia Pass. Yi Qinghan and the others rushed through the snowy peaks and the canyon, heading south. They only needed to cross the Battle Tribe's territory to enter the Eternal Sword Dao Sacred Land's insane manor. However, the Battle Tribe's territory was so vast that it would take Yi Qinghan and Fan Yin a month to cross it. Moreover, they had a group of juniors behind them. Many of them weren't as fast as Yi Qinghan. However, Xia Zhilong appeared in front of them as soon as they were 300 miles away from Snow Jia Pass. Whoosh! Fan Yin and the others quickly braked and looked at Xia Zhilong cautiously. Xia Zhilong was all smiles. Fan Yin, I have something to ask of you. Come with me. I don't have time. Scram, Fan Yin refused without hesitation. Xia Zhilong wasn't angry. He smiled. You definitely have time. I'll give you 15 minutes to catch up. After saying that, Xia Zhilong turned around and rushed towards the Southwest Battle Race's central region. Fan Yin's complexion changed. He snorted and said, Little Yi, take them away from the War Race's border area with the fastest speed. Get closer to the War Race's bustling area. Don't give them a chance to surround you. No matter how arrogant that idiot Xia Zhilong is, he won't dare to mobilize experts to stir up a war in the War Race. Before Fan Yin finished his words, he took to the air and left. Fan Yin had no choice but to leave. If he did not leave, Xia Zhilong would at most shed all pretense of cordiality, but this group of people would have no hope of escaping. If he left, at least there would be a glimmer of hope. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath. He looked at the Son of War and asked, Brother War, you are familiar with the terrain of the battle race. Lead the way for us. We will head towards the heart of the battle race. The Son of Battle shook his head and said, Just now, the 9 Dragons Crown Prince and Senior Sister Fan Yin left in the direction of my battle tribe's hinterland. We cannot follow them. Otherwise, if we are attacked from both sides, it will be even more difficult to escape. At this moment, Zhang Jiuxiao raised his hand and said, Big brother, Brother Yi, I have a path. It's very dangerous and not suitable for fighting. I'm afraid that even if Xian Xiu chases after us, we won't be able to attack. The Son of Battle thought for a moment and asked, Are you talking about the sky-raising ridge? Yes. That place is either a long and narrow mountain peak or a cliff. We can fly for a long time using artifacts, which is equivalent to the upper realm. However, after flying for a long time, can we still fight? Obviously not. Since we can't do it, Xian Xiu's group can't do it either. As long as we pass through the sky-raising ridge, it will be my battle race's Phoenix Sun City. Xian Xiu shouldn't dare to fight in Phoenix Sun City, right? Zhang Jiuxiao suggested excitedly. When everyone heard this, they all nodded. This was a desperate solution, but it was also very dangerous. If the other party fought in the sky without caring about the cost, the casualties would definitely be very high. Seeking riches in danger, we'll fight from the sky-raising ridge. However, the path is dangerous. Wutian, take your Lil, Miss and the others and take another path. Brother Jiuxiao, accompany them. I'll take little Shui and Brother Zhan through the sky-raising ridge. Even if something happens, we can avoid a large number of experts. Yi Qinghan gritted his teeth and said. With that, Yi Qinghan looked at Emperor Feng and said in a low voice, Brother Feng, I'll have to trouble you to take care of these juniors. Follow them to Kuang Manor. Once you enter, no matter how many people Xia Zhilong brings, he won't be able to take you away. Emperor Feng nodded solemnly and said, Then be careful, Brother Yi. Emperor Feng, Zhang Jiuxiao, and Lin Wutian quickly brought Emperor Yi, the Yi sisters, Zhou Shuguang, Yen Yunbei, and the others away and rushed towards the south. Yi Qinghan and the Son of Battle stood in place while Lin Shui quietly waited for Xian Xiu and the others to come closer. Whoosh! Whoosh whoosh whoosh! Xian Xiu brought close to 100 experts and rushed towards them. They were not ordinary soldiers. They were invincible kings in the Middle Realm and were all experts among experts. This was especially true for the Upper Realm experts. They were one realm higher than the true disciples of the legendary realm. Even Yi Qinghan would not be a match for them. The difference of one realm was like the difference between heaven and earth. The blood-robed guards were not like the miscellaneous troops that the thousand-hand Buddha had gathered. They were roped in from all over the mountains. They had not undergone any special training, nor did they have any proper secret techniques to cultivate. In addition, they had shielded themselves from the perception of the outside world in order to avoid the divine sense of the Kuang sect. That was why they had been assassinated by Yen Yunbei in one fell swoop. The Holy Empire's foundation was unfathomable. Almost every city had a blood strike guard. There were at most 100 or 200 blood strike guards and at least 3 to 5 of them. They were not mobilized on normal days. Occasionally, they would act as scouts and collect intelligence. Once they were mobilized, they would succeed. Xuejia Pass was located at an important location, so there were 100 blood strike guards here. Now, Xian Xiu had gathered all of them. The son of battle and Yi Qinghan looked at the experts rushing towards them from afar. Half of them could not fly. Although their cultivation was high, they did not have powerful artifacts to support them. At most, they could rely on the power of jumping to fly for a joss stick's worth of time. However, flying like this was too exhausting. They would not use it unless they had no other choice. Including Xian Xiu, there are a total of 14 upper realm experts. It would be too easy for them to destroy us. We can't fight them head-on. Let's leave first, the son of battle said in a low voice. Yi Qinghan was expressionless. He said indifferently, "There's no hurry. Let's wait for them and give them some hope. They won't split up to capture the others." The son of battle reminded him, "I'm afraid you won't be able to keep up." Yi Qinghan shrugged and replied, "I've learned shadowless cloud manipulation and have the support of an upper realm sacred artifact. My speed shouldn't be much slower than Brother Zhan's." The son of battle heaved a sigh of relief. He watched as Xian Xiu and the others got closer and closer. They were only a few miles away. He could not help but circulate his divine power and pour it into his legs. His fighting spirit grew stronger and stronger, attracting Xian Xiu's experts. Xian Xiu locked onto Yi Qinghan and the son of battle. He said in a low voice, "Capture the little girl beside Yi Qinghan at all costs. As for the son of battle, injure him. As for Yi Qinghan, kill him on the spot." "Yes, sir." The blood strike guards moved in unison. They were as fast as lightning as they pounced on Yi Qinghan and the son of battle from all directions. Chapter 1964. Nearly 100 experts surrounded them from all directions. The upper-level experts even took a detour to stop them. They were less than 3,000 meters apart. Yi Qinghan did not plan to escape. Instead, he grabbed Lin Shui. "Get on my back." Zing. Although Lin Shui was frightened, she did not lose her composure completely. She was pulled onto Yi Qinghan's back and clasped her hands tightly. 2,000 meters, 1,000 meters, boom. Xian Xiu used the heaven shrouding technique. His palm pierced through the sky and attacked from afar. Yi Qinghan, surrender. His roar was deafening. Anyone with a weaker cultivation would have fainted. Boom. Let's go. Yi Qinghan stomped his foot and shot into the distance like lightning. Whoosh, the son of war crushed the ground with his foot. A deep chasm appeared under his feet. The two of them turned into divine arrows and shot through the air. Chase them. Don't let them escape. The mystic's palm landed on the two of them, but it was only a moment too slow. Dust flew everywhere, but it did not have any effect. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. 14 figures seemed to be even faster than Yi Qinghan. They rushed toward Yi Qinghan from the left and right flank. The rest of them took a detour and prepared to intercept him. Whoosh. Boom. Meteors appeared in the sky and smashed into the depths of the mountain. The mystics group was getting closer and closer to Yi Qinghan. However, Yi Qinghan was not anxious and maintained his speed. The son of war seemed to understand his intentions and did not use his full strength. He only kept the blood-robed guards and the mystic behind him in order to prevent the mystic from chasing after Feng Huang and the others. Boom. Yi Qinghan swooped down as if he was using all his strength. He crushed a mountain and pulled Shui Lin away again. The distance between the two parties was now about 7 or 8 miles. Under the sky, such a distance seemed very small. Whoosh! The mystic was not willing to let the distance widen. He sped up and closed the distance again. Stupid mystic! You're an upper-level mystic, but you can't even catch up to my boss. You should just find a mountain and hang yourself. The divine bird stood on Yi Qinghan's shoulder and shouted behind them. Xian Xiu and the other experts' eyes turned green with anger. In their anger, their speed actually increased by 30%. A bunch of fools, where's the strength of drinking milk? Did he only know how to sleep with women all day long? Trash. Look at you bunch of trash. The divine bird continued to taunt and mock them. This group of upper-level cultivators did not even think about chasing after other people. They only wanted to capture Yi Qinghan and beat the divine bird on his back to death. Bastard! Watch my sword. Xian Xiu rode on his sword and actually used his divine sense to control the divine sword to stab at the divine bird on Yi Qinghan's shoulder. Whoosh! Whoosh! The divine sword sped forward, leaving behind a trail of flames. In the blink of an eye, it was right in front of the divine bird. The divine bird's feathers exploded, and it almost fell from the sky in fright. Boom! Yi Qinghan suddenly sped up and dodged the divine sword. The divine sword shattered space and crashed into the mountain peak. The peak of the mountain exploded, and flames burned in all directions. The rocks pierced through the ancient trees. It was extremely powerful. Gaga, are you blind? You can't even hit such a huge divine bird. You don't believe me when I say you're trash. The divine bird sneered when it saw that it had dodged. F***ck. Xian Xiu cursed. He waved his hand to summon the divine sword and continued to chase. More than 10 people sped for 2 hours and traveled more than 1,500 miles. Mountain peaks appeared in front of them. There were no plains or valleys. They were all unfathomably deep canyons. This is Sky Pillar Ridge. Let's start guerrilla warfare and shake them off, the child of combat said in a low voice. All right, watch carefully. Yi Qinghan laughed heartily. His figure rapidly descended and dove into the canyon. He flew along the foot of the canyon and avoided the sight of Xian Xiu and the others. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan and the child of combat fled separately. They relied entirely on speed and technique. Their control of strength was almost at its limit. They were not afraid of crashing into the cliff when they dove down. If there was even the slightest mistake, they would fall to pieces. Hold on tight. Watch how I shake off these idiots, Yi Qinghan said confidently. Whoosh, whoosh. Yi Qinghan was practically running along the cliff. He was extremely fast, as if he was the incarnation of the wind. The wind wreaked havoc and messed up his black hair. The divine bird grabbed onto Yi Qinghan's clothes, afraid that it would be flung away. Lin Shui lay motionless on Yi Qinghan's back. She could not even breathe. There were at least 10 experts chasing after Yi Qinghan. Only 2 people were following the child of combat. They were afraid that they would lose Yi Qinghan. If they found the child of combat, they would still be able to find Yi Qinghan. Xian Xiu and the other experts were not far behind Yi Qinghan. None of them were shaken off. I'll play with you first. If you can catch up to me, I won't have legendary speed. Yi Qinghan quickly turned and passed through the canyon. Soon, he was submerged in the thick fog. However, as soon as he entered the fog, he knew that something was wrong. The insect queen had become restless and had rushed out to swallow the poisonous miasma. Oh no, there's poison in the fog, whoosh! Yi Qinghan quickly released his divine power and wrapped it around Lin Shui. He moved faster and faster. For Lin Shui's safety, he had to leave the thick fog quickly. However, the poisonous miasma was not much of a problem to the upper-level experts. They were still chasing him ferociously. I'm not playing with you anymore. I'm leaving first. Whoosh! The cloud treading boots on Yi Qinghan's feet suddenly glowed. He used the shadowless cloud treading skill. He moved through the clouds as if he was walking on flat ground. He turned the clouds into soil and stepped on the wind like lightning. Whoosh! In the blink of an eye, Yi Qinghan disappeared from the canyon and shot into the clouds. In a few flashes, he was thousands of miles away from the group. Oh no, I was fooled by him. His speed is at the legendary stage. The mystic was shocked as he watched Yi Qinghan disappear without a trace. Use a forbidden technique. When the Blood Strike Guards take action, there has never been a mission that we can't complete. If we fail, there's no point in us existing. A cold light flashed in the eyes of the middle-aged leader. He gritted his teeth and blood spurted out from the tip of his tongue. Then, his entire body was bathed in blood. Blood escape in all directions, enter the universe. Whoosh! The middle-aged man was even faster than Yi Qinghan's peak speed. He broke through the void and appeared not far behind Yi Qinghan. It was as if he could reach out and touch him. Yi Qinghan was shocked. He gritted his teeth and fled frantically. His cloud-treading boots were practically on fire from the friction. He had already used the shadowless cloud-treading skill to its limit. Although it was not as fast as Fan Yin, it was still faster than some legendary masters. However, he still could not shake off the upper realm expert behind him. The leader of the Blood Strike Guards was an upper realm expert. If he did not have some ability, he would not have been able to escape. Uncle, run! Little Lin Shui turned her head to look at the upper realm expert. She knew the difference between realms. Yi Qinghan was an intermediate realm expert. Even if Yi Qinghan was a legendary master, he was only faster than Yi Qinghan. If they really fought, two Yi Qinghans working together would at most be able to tie with him. Yi Qinghan was sweating profusely. Suddenly, 3 green lotuses appeared above his head. 3 flowers at one's crown, green lotus immortal step, seizing the heavens. PFFF, Yi Qinghan could not use the green lotus immortal steps seizing the heavens. He could only use his blood essence to support it. He exhausted his own essence and spat out a mouthful of blood. His body felt as if it had been hollowed out. Carrying Lin Shui on his back, he crashed to the ground. Chapter 1965. Yi Qinghan leaped tens of thousands of miles, using the Green Lotus celestial steps and shadowless cloud to reach the pinnacle. It was definitely faster than Fan Yin's peak speed. However, his divine power was depleted, so he lost control in the air and crashed to the ground. Boom! Whoosh, whoosh! Yi Qinghan's body was covered in flames. He fell like a meteor and could be seen clearly within 100 miles. Star-twining vine, wrap around little snow. Yi Qinghan was shocked. It was thousands of meters high. Even his absolute saint body might not be able to withstand it. If Shuelin fell, she would definitely die. Whoosh! The countless vines of the star-twining vine wrapped around Yi Qinghan and Lin Shui, forming a huge ball. The flames burned the vines, and the vines started burning. Boom, boom, boom! The shock waves hit the ground and swept through the mountains and rivers. All the adventurers within 100 miles looked up at the sky with shock in their eyes. Bang! The distance of thousands of meters was covered in the blink of an eye. The vines of the star-twining vine were the first to bear the brunt of the impact. The vines shattered into pieces and scattered in all directions. Boom! Yi Qinghan placed his hands on the ground, using little snow on his back as a shield, completely blocking the force of the impact. The ground had been smashed apart, leaving behind a shocking crater that was dozens of meters deep. Crack! Ah! The sound of broken bones and shrill screams echoed in the pit for a long time. Uncle, are you okay? Lin Shui climbed up in a panic and asked anxiously. Yi Qinghan grimaced in pain. Tears fell uncontrollably from his eyes. His body was covered in blood. His divine body was broken. He had almost become the first legendary expert in history to fall to his death. His name would be forever recorded in the annals of history. I'm fine. I won't die. Let me recover my cultivation first. It's not safe here. After saying that, Yi Qinghan quickly took out a few sacred medicines. They were all sacred medicines from the eternal underground palace. Their recovery abilities were far superior to other sacred medicines of the same level. Crack, crack. The broken bones were quickly repaired, and divine radiance bathed the entire crater. It was as if a treasure had appeared. At this moment, the adventurers in the surroundings continuously rushed over, wanting to see what kind of treasure had fallen. They were even more surprised and excited when they saw the divine light shooting up into the sky from the deep pit. Ha ha, it's really a holy treasure. We're rich. Once we get this deal, we'll be able to enjoy life. We'll be able to buy a small city and become our free kings. The burly men shouted excitedly. In the deep pit, Shui Lin's expression changed abruptly. Seeing that Yi Qinghan was still recovering from his injuries, she became even more anxious. This was because most of the people who were adventuring in this dangerous place were of the lower plane. She would not be a match for any one of them. Don't panic. With this divine bird here, no one can do anything to us. The divine bird jumped out and said proudly. Do you know how to fight? Shui Lin asked suspiciously. The heavenly bird widened its eyes and was speechless. In terms of combat power, it couldn't even defeat Shui Lin, but did it really need to rely on its fists to fight? Just its mouth alone was enough. Whoosh! At this moment, a rope fell from the ground, followed by a hurried voice. You guys hold the rope. I'll go down and take a look. We'll split the treasure equally. A low and powerful voice echoed in the deep pit. Okay. A few more voices intertwined. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Soil fell and sand and stones flew everywhere. A lower plane master was moving down the rope. Lowly ant, how dare you trespass on this god's place of cultivation? Do you want to die? A majestic aura shot out from the ground, soaring into the galaxy and suppressing the heavens, wanting to break through the shackles of heaven and earth. Underground, Yi Qinghan was still recovering from his injuries and recovering his divine power. He had not even recovered 10% of his strength, so it was impossible for him to threaten the adventurers at the top. At this moment, Shui Lin looked at the divine bird in surprise. She found that its pores were open, and its majestic aura was even stronger, as if it was a real peerless master. The divine bird had not learned anything in all these years, but it had learned how to make a fuss from Yi Qinghan. It was very good at showing off. The adventurers at the top were frightened by the aura and voice. The big man who had entered the deep pit quickly shouted, "Pull me up, there's a master inside." Whoosh! The adventurer quickly pulled the big man out of the crater and knelt as he said in fear, "Supreme Sovereign, this brat didn't know that you were here. I hope that you are a great person and will forgive this lowly person. We will leave immediately." Scram! The divine bird's voice was deep and majestic. It was 90% similar to Yi Qinghan's voice, and its aura was almost the same. Whoosh! The adventurers on the ground were shocked. They rolled and crawled out of the valley. After a long time, there was no more sound from above. The divine bird glanced at Shui Lin arrogantly. It raised its eyes as if provoking Shui Lin. "Little girl, when this divine bird was roaming the world, you were still in liquid form. How dare you doubt this divine bird's ability? How childish," the divine bird said proudly. Shui Lin's thin lips moved. She was stunned and did not know what to say. At this time, Yi Qinghan's aura was slowly rising. After recovering 30% of his strength, he took 2 sacred elixirs. His strength was majestic and roaring like the sea going out of control. His dry golden body suddenly became turbulent. As the saying goes, there can be no construction without destruction. Yi Qinghan emptied his body this time. Not only did it not leave behind any sequelae, it even improved. Whoosh! After an hour, Yi Qinghan had recovered 70% of his strength. However, it was an obvious improvement from his previous 70% strength. Let's go. Yi Qinghan glared at Yi Qinghan. He stretched out his hand and pulled Shui Lin out of the deep pit. The spiritual energy on the ground was much denser than in the deep pit. It automatically surged into Yi Qinghan's body, and his recovery speed was much faster. Yi Qinghan scanned his surroundings. When he saw that the mystic cultivators had not yet caught up, he sat cross-legged on the ground again and absorbed the 2 sacred elixirs. His entire body was bathed in sacred light. Spiritual energy surged, forming the 8 trigrams. A huge green lotus appeared behind him, accelerating his absorption of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth and the essence of the sun and moon. Whoosh! In an instant, Yi Qinghan had recovered 80% of his strength. It was almost equivalent to his previous peak strength. Crack! The broken bones were successfully condensed again. However, because too much essence had been condensed, Yi Qinghan did not seem to have grown taller. Instead, he seemed to have grown shorter by about a centimeter. However, he was now 2 centimeters shorter, which made him look more balanced. If Yi Qinghan was said to be in the lower 9 paths the day before, he was now at least in the lower 7 path. If he reached his peak strength, he would at least be in the 6th path. He had advanced by 3 small realms in one go. Boom! Yi Qinghan's aura surged like an eagle soaring into the sky. Waves of energy surged. Even from 100 miles away, one could see the surging mountains and rivers. Yi Qinghan could not vent his boundless strength. He stood up and roared, his aura soaring to the heavens. Boom! Yi Qinghan clenched his iron fist and punched at a distant mountain. The mountain, which was dozens of meters away, was directly smashed through, and the mountain shifted by several inches. There can be no construction without destruction. He had to fight to live through death. The explosive power and potential he had produced were much greater than what he had achieved after 30 to 50 years of bitter cultivation. However, there were no benefits to digging out one's potential like this. It could disappear at any time. His vigorous face emitted a divine glow. Golden light flowed through his body, making him look like a precious immortal medicine. Every inch of his skin was priceless. Yi Qinghan's eyes were even more dazzling than the stars. His gaze swept past the mountains and rivers. He saw the mystic rapidly approaching. Not only did he have no intention of retreating, he even wanted to fight. Star-twisting vine, multicolored snake, divine bird, take little snow and leave this place. I'll deal with Xia Zhilong's #1 follower, Yi Qinghan said confidently. Chapter 1966. The divine bird, the star-twisting vine, and the colorful snake quickly took Lin Shui away, leaving Yi Qinghan alone in the huge valley to wait for Xian Xiu's arrival. Yi Qinghan knew how powerful Xian Xiu was. Even an emperor was no match for him. Xian Xiu's strength was in the upper realm. In terms of individual combat strength, he was probably much stronger than an ordinary legendary expert. After all, he was in the upper realm. However, Yi Qinghan was not afraid at all. Instead, he was very excited. His fighting spirit was strong as he looked expectantly at Xian Xiu, who was rushing over. Whoosh! A strong wind blew, causing his battle robe to flutter. Yi Qinghan closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Then, he opened his eyes and stretched his body. His bones emitted crisp sounds, and the treasure light became even stronger. Whoosh, boom! Xian Xiu rode the wind and broke through the wave. In the blink of an eye, he stepped into the valley. His eyes were filled with disbelief as he stared at Yi Qinghan. He asked suspiciously, Yi Qinghan, what demonic technique did you use just now? How did you run so far in an instant? Yi Qinghan smiled faintly and patted his cloud manipulation boot. He said, Shadowless cloud manipulation, this upper sacred artifact cloud manipulation boots, and I used up all my divine power. The effect is not bad. However, you are persistent enough. You chased me for 2 hours and still gave chase. How much divine power do you have left? Do you want me to give you an hour's advantage, and let you rest for a while before continuing? Xianxiu took a deep breath and said in a muffled voice, There's no need. I'm in the upper realm after all. Leaving 50% of my strength is enough to deal with you. What big words! I'll give you 3 moves. Yi Qinghan gestured disdainfully with his hand. Arrogant brat! Do you really think that you can ignore the heroes of the world just because you can withstand 3 moves from His Highness? His Highness only used 10% of his strength when fighting you. Today I'll teach you how to behave. Xianxiu roared angrily as he unsheathed his divine sword. Sword light shot out in all directions. Hum! The divine sword whistled and sword qi filled the air. Xianxiu drew his sword and moved in all directions, forming 4 hard blades that stabbed Yi Qinghan in all directions. Crack! Yi Qinghan did not even want to use his weapon. Furthermore, Berserk had yet to take form, so he directly used his fists, pouring out divine power from his palms. Boom! Yi Qinghan instantly shattered the 3 illusory sword shadows and reached out to slap Xianxiu's divine sword. Boom! Whoosh! His divine energy radiated in all directions and blocked the tip of the divine sword. However, it was as if the divine sword had struck the heavens and was unable to move an inch forward. Crack, crack, crack! Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh! The mountain rocks beneath Yi Qinghan and Xianxiu's feet crumbled. Soil splattered everywhere, and waves of air swept up wild grass in all directions. The mystic was shocked. He did not expect that half of his strength would be blocked by Yi Qinghan's bare hands. He was instantly enraged. Brat, you've gone too far. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh! Xianxiu pulled back his sword and raised 3 sword flowers in a row. They were compatible with the sword Tao of heaven and earth, and his battle prowess instantly multiplied. Boom! Yi Qinghan clenched his fist and punched Xianxiu's divine sword. This time, he could not block it and was forced back. The mountain rocks beneath his feet were like rotten wood, shattering upon contact. Die! Xianxiu's fighting spirit soared as he gained the upper hand. The great Tao of the sword's profundity soared into the clouds. The world was filled with sword shadows, and the mountain rocks were flattened. The sharp sword qi was indestructible, and there was nothing it could not destroy. Every sword shadow had substantial offensive power and was extremely powerful. There was no way out, so he could only take it head-on. Yi Qinghan was expressionless. He circulated all the energy in his body, and divine power flowed through his limbs and bones. His saintly body glowed with divine light. Roar! Yi Qinghan crossed his arms and gathered them in front of his chest. He bent his legs slightly and gathered qi in his dantian. Then, he opened his hands. The deafening roar of a dragon and a tiger sounded. Divine power poured out and rushed in all directions. The terrifying destructive power shattered all the divine swords that were attacking him from all directions. Whoosh! However, Xianxiu's main attack was not the sword shadows, but the divine sword. Astral sword technique, 9th style. Shatter the void. Hum, whoosh! In the blink of an eye, Xianxiu's sword had already become one with him, shattering the void. His sword aura was like a rainbow, and in the blink of an eye, he arrived in front of Yi Qinghan. As long as it pierced through, the sword qi would instantly shatter Yi Qinghan's soul, leaving him with no hope of survival. Pa! Hum hum hum! Yi Qinghan's opened hands fiercely clasped together, catching the divine sword. He took half a step back, leaned forward slightly, and tore the divine sword apart. Stick technique. Return technique. Tremor technique. Yi Qinghan quickly twisted his body, absorbing all the power from Xianxiu's sword into his body. With a light shake of his arm, the divine sword shook violently and almost broke. Buzz! Back off! Yi Qinghan returned all the energy he had absorbed back to Xianxiu. Adding 70% of his own strength, Yi Qinghan fiercely pushed the divine sword away. The energy surged through the air like an undercurrent and smashed into Xianxiu's chest. Boom, boom, boom. Xianxiu did not expect Yi Qinghan to be so powerful. He only had 50% of his strength left, and Yi Qinghan's attack sent him flying, coughing up blood. His eyes were filled with blood as he crashed into the ground in the distance. Impossible! How long has it been? Your 10-character sutra has actually reached such a level. Xianxiu roared in indignation. A Xianxiu with 50% of his strength is only SOSO. Even if you were at your peak, I would still be able to win. You must remember that nothing is impossible in this world. I am talented and intelligent, favored by the heavens. Help me pass a message to Xia Jilong. 10,000 years later, I will definitely sweep through the younger generation, including Xia Jilong. Yi Qinghan's body swayed, and all his remaining strength dissipated as he spoke domineeringly. What a joke! You actually want to challenge me, the Crown Prince? A frog at the bottom of a well. Can you survive? PFFF. Xianxiu's blood boiled, and he spat out another mouthful of essence blood. It seemed that his injuries were very serious, and he did not even have the strength to speak. You don't have to worry about how long I can live, but let me remind you that you'd better not hit my niece. Otherwise, if I fall out with you, the consequences will be dire, Yi Qinghan warned sternly. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. While the two of them were talking, more than 10 figures came from afar, streaking across the sky like shooting stars. They were extremely fast. The blood-robed guards had also caught up, but they were all panting. It was already not bad if they had 30% of their cultivation left. Fortunately, there were many of them, so Yi Qinghan did not plan on fighting them head-on. Goodbye. A wise man knows better than to fight when the odds are against him. I'll take my leave first. Let's meet again if fate wills it. Yi Qinghan waved his hand. He did not want to kill Xianxiu. There was no benefit in completely infuriating Xia Jilong, so he turned and left. With a few flashes, he left the valley and disappeared from Xianxiu's sight. Xianxiu struggled a few times before standing up in a sorry state. His chest had almost been pierced through, and his organs were in turmoil. He could not even use his divine power, so he had no choice but to kneel on the ground. Chapter 1967. Xianxiu's organs were twisted, and he was in so much pain that he couldn't straighten his back. He fell to his knees. Not long after Yi Qinghan left, 10 blood strike guards caught up. They were sweating profusely and panting. They didn't have much divine power left. They could deal with the saint, but it was impossible for them to deal with a legendary expert. Lord Xianxiu, where's Yi Qinghan? The leader asked in a deep voice. Xianxiu adjusted his breathing for a moment and slowly stood up. His face was pale as he said hoarsely, "Up ahead is Fengyang City. They should be gathering there. However, don't be in a hurry to chase him. Recover your strength first. Otherwise, even if you catch up, you won't be able to defeat him." The blood strike guards didn't believe him. They were experts among experts of the same level. How could 10 blood strike guards not be able to defeat an intermediate realm expert? I know that you're all very strong, but after chasing him for so long and using forbidden techniques, it's already not bad if you have 20 or 30% of your divine power left. Even I was crippled by him with 50% of my strength, let alone you, Xianxiu explained coldly. How can a mere intermediate realm expert be so exaggerated? Even if he's at the legendary realm, he can't fight you, right? The leader of the blood strike guards asked in shock. Xianxiu sighed and said, I lost half of my strength and can't even use my peak moves. He was lucky to beat me. However, I have to admit that he's strong. He cultivated the 10-word spell and shadowless cloud movement of the sky-reaching school. He's already at the small success stage. He's not much different from the legendary true disciples of the other holy lands. Many blood-robed guards nodded. Legendary level strength wasn't terrifying to the upper level, but legendary level speed was too terrifying. It was even more exaggerated than an upper level expert. No legendary level true disciple could defeat a mystic at his peak, but they could drag him to death. This was the difference. At that moment, Yi Qinghan had already found Lin Shui and the 3 divine beasts. He waved his hand and took them away. Then, he brought Lin Shui to Fengyang City. Phoenix Sun, this place belonged to the north, but it was sunny all year round, just like a paradise. The spiritual essence was rich, suitable for humans to live in. That was why this place was the most flourishing city in the War Race's territory. It was even more flourishing than Shuijia Pass. However, the number of experts here was not that exaggerated. After all, this place was not a strategic location. There weren't many guards outside Phoenix Sun City. It was just like an ordinary big city. Moreover, this was the hinterland of the war race, so no one dared to invade. Yi Qinghan led Xuelin into the city. They were not in a hurry to leave. They were waiting for the son of battle. Lin Shui looked around like a curious baby, full of curiosity. This was also Yi Qinghan's first time in this city. He was truly impressed by the great world. Just a random city could reach such heights. The two slowly walked into the city. Lin Shui still had a childlike heart. She was still like a naive child. She wanted to buy and play with everything she saw. Yi Qinghan did not care about this small amount of money. As long as she wanted something, he would buy it without bargaining. He had become the living god of wealth for the shops around. They played until nighttime. Yi Qinghan took Lin Shui to the most flourishing restaurant of the Zhan family. They casually ordered some food and drink. After that, they asked for 2 first-class rooms, ready to wait for the son of battle. After going upstairs, Yi Qinghan did not go directly to his room. Instead, he went to Lin Shui's room across the street. He looked around the room and found that it was indeed quiet. The decorations were also very elegant. There were protective arrays all around, so there was no need to worry about being eavesdropped on. Yi Qinghan sat on a chair and asked gently, "Come, little Shui. Tell uncle about you so that I can be mentally prepared." Lin Shui seemed to trust Yi Qinghan very much. She did not suspect anything and said, "Uncle, I am the orphan of the royal family of the Daluo astral realm. Since I can remember, my family's guard has taken me to wander around to avoid being hunted down. I don't know anything else, so I don't know how to tell you." Lin Shui's guard, Lin Jun. Yi Qinghan naturally remembered him. He was the one-armed man he met in the Land of Despair. His cultivation was not bad, but to be able to escape with Lin Shui for so many years, he had to admit that he was very careful. "Did your uncle Lin Jun tell you that there are even stronger princes of the royal family of the Daluo astral realm that have been captured alive and are still alive in this world?" Yi Qinghan asked curiously. He wanted to know who Xia Jilong was in the sealed sky prison. Lin Shui shook her head. It seemed that she knew nothing about the extinction of the Daluo astral realm. "Then do you only have the star chessboard as an inheritance? Did your uncle Lin give you anything else?" Yi Qinghan asked again. Lin Shui thought for a moment and said, "Uncle Lin said that as long as I can revive the star chessboard, I will know everything." Yi Qinghan nodded and extended his hand. "Let me see the star chessboard. Perhaps there will be some clues. You don't have the secret cultivation method of the Daluo astral realm's royal family. I'm afraid it will be very difficult to revive it." Lin Shui extended her hand and took out the star chessboard. It looked like an ordinary chessboard, but if one looked closely, they would find that the chessboard was like a starry sky. It used the world as the board and the stars as the chess pieces. Anyone who dared to use this chessboard to play chess was not an ordinary person. Yi Qinghan extended his hand and took it. He examined it carefully but did not find anything special. The star chessboard might be a useless chessboard to an outsider. It was not an eternal sacred artifact, but in Lin Xue's hands, it might be able to unleash extraordinary power that could destroy the world. Sigh, it's good stuff. Unfortunately, I can't use it. Yi Qinghan shook his head and sighed. The star chessboard was like the spiritual wooden sword. Without Green Lotus Sword Immortal's permission, he could not even lift it, let alone use it. Then, Yi Qinghan handed the chessboard to Lin Xue and gently instructed, "No matter what happens in the future, do not take out the chessboard. Otherwise you will be dead. Even I will not be able to protect you." Lin Xue nodded seriously and quickly hid the chessboard. "Rest. When I return to my destination, I'll introduce you to an auntie. She might be able to help you," Yi Qinghan comforted her. Green Lotus Sword Immortal had the same fate as this poor child. Both of them had their families and worlds destroyed. The only difference was that Green Lotus Sword Immortal was an adult and had to bear far more than Xuelin. Xuelin probably didn't even know what hatred was now. Yi Qinghan left Lin Xue's guest room and returned to his room alone. He sat cross-legged on the edge of the bed and cultivated diligently. In the past few years, he had improved a lot. If he did not absorb it in time, his cultivation level would definitely not reach the limit of the same level. He could not be said to be at the legendary stage. His cultivation level would regress if he did not improve. If he wanted to do something, he had to do his best. Yi Qinghan definitely had the highest requirements for himself. Chapter 1968. The first night in Fengyang City was uneventful. However, 13 blood strike guards and Xian Xiu were gathered outside the city. Lord Xian Xiu, the son of war, has indeed entered Fengyang City. I believe Yi Qinghan is also in Fengyang City, a blood strike guard expert who was chasing after the son of war said as he bowed slightly. Xian Xiu thought for a moment and said, "Fengyang City has 4 gates. According to Yi Qinghan's route, he will definitely leave from the south gate. However, we cannot rule out the possibility that he will secretly take another path. Therefore, the 4 gates must be strictly guarded. Spread out at the 4 gates and change your clothes. Watch him for me. I will mobilize the blood strike guard experts in Fengyang City to help us. This time, we must not let Yi Qinghan escape." "Yes, Lord," the blood strike guards replied as they cupped their fists. Xian Xiu looked at the 13 blood strike guards. However, he was not confident that he could capture Yi Qinghan, let alone kill him. "All of you be careful. Don't underestimate Yi Qinghan. He is not an ordinary person. Treat him as a level 6 legendary expert. Kill him at all costs," Xian Xiu reminded them in a low voice. The blood strike guards were very confident. 13 blood strike guards were more than enough to deal with Fan Yin. Furthermore, Yi Qinghan was not Fan Yin and had a Xian Xiu overseeing him. Very quickly, the blood strike guards transformed into ordinary people and stepped into Fengyang City. They each carried out their duties and headed to their respective gates. There were 4 people at the north gate, 5 at the south gate, 3 at the east gate, and 2 at the west gate. Xian Xiu personally oversaw the south gate. After the 5 people arrived at the south gate, Xian Xiu said to them, "All of you spread out. I will go into the city and inform the blood strike guard experts. We will try to assassinate Yi Qinghan in the city." The 4 blood strike guard experts were expressionless. They nodded and spread out. They were only a few dozen meters away from the city gate and could reach it in the blink of an eye. It was already morning and the sun was shining brightly. There were many people on the streets with pleasant expressions. It was rare for a city to be so quiet. Yi Qinghan got out of bed and stretched. He was full of energy and seemed to have improved a little from the day before. After washing up, He walked out of the balcony in his white clothes and looked at the peaceful surroundings with a smile on his face. Dong dong dong. A few weak knocks on the door woke Yi Qinghan up. "Come in," Yi Qinghan said indifferently as he turned to look at the door. Shui Lin pushed the door open and entered, her face full of excitement and happiness, as if she had not experienced the feeling of having a family member for a long time. "Xian Shui." Yi Qinghan smiled and said, "Little girl, you've already abstained from eating. Why do you care so much about food?" Xian Xiu scratched her head. "I don't know. I feel terrible if I don't eat." Yi Qinghan's face was full of smiles as he walked in front of Shui Lin. He used his finger to scratch her nose and said lovingly, "You're just a little foodie. Since you want to eat, I'll take you to eat something good and see Phoenix City." Xian Xiu and Xian Xiu walked into the main hall of the Zhan family's restaurant with smiles on their faces. Many young men and women were eating there. Yi Qinghan casually found a seat by the window and sat down. Looking up, he could see almost half of the street and observe his surroundings. However, as soon as they sat down, they heard whispers from other tables. The contents were very frightening. "Have you heard? The Crown Prince of the Holy Empire and the Sky-Reaching School's true disciple are fighting in the Northwest Desert. The situation is very tragic. I heard that the Sky-Reaching School's true disciple is a stunning beauty. But this time she was beaten very badly. Even the Crown Prince was injured." A young man said excitedly. "I heard that too." At the same time, there was a great battle at Sky Pillar Ridge. I only know that the #1 follower of the Holy Empire's Crown Prince, Master Xian Xiu, fought with a young man. An adventurer peeped at the battle from afar. I heard that Master Xian Xiu was beaten so badly that he couldn't even stand up. Yi Qinghan was worried when he heard the first news. He was worried about Fan Yin's safety. What is Xia Zhilong trying to do? There isn't much hatred between the true disciples. At most, Fan Yin is a bit of a troublemaker. Why would he be so ruthless and injure her? Yi Qinghan thought to himself. It seems that I have to find senior sister Fan Yin. She fought with Xia Zhilong for me. However, a piece of news that followed right after made him go a little crazy. A wretched-looking thin man said mysteriously. "Hee, you guys don't know the whole story, but this lord knows it clearly. Actually, there was a great battle a few days ago. It happened in the northeast of the War Race's territory. I heard that it involved immortal herbs." As soon as he said that, Yi Qinghan almost broke the table. His eyes flashed and stared at that thin, wretched-looking man. However, that person didn't care because everyone was staring at him. They all wanted to know the whole story. "What happened? Fellow Taoist Li Er, hurry up and tell us," everyone said. "Ai. This meal cost me a lot of money." That wretched-looking man sighed. "Che. If you want to eat, then say it earlier." Everyone mocked. Yi Qinghan was expressionless. He said in a muffled voice, "This meal is on me. Tell me about the other battle in the northeast." Li Er was overjoyed. He quickly waved his hand and ordered a table full of good wine and dishes. With a wretched smile, he looked at Yi Qinghan and said, "Brother, you're really open-minded. Let me tell you, the battle in the Northwest Desert and Sky-Raising Ridge may be world-shaking. However, the battle in the Northeast involved immortal herbs. I heard that the group of people were the younger generation of the insane sect. There was also the saintess of the Oshi sacred ground, your saint. There was also a man who appeared out of nowhere. His cultivation was close to the legendary true disciples of the various sacred ground. Even the weakest of them was a true disciple of a powerful sect. Logically speaking, this group of people shouldn't be afraid of being hunted down by any small forces. Ordinary forces wouldn't be able to threaten them without 3 to 5 upper realm cultivators. However, a group of people came out of nowhere and killed the group of people from the insane sect. Yi Qinghan couldn't help but clench his fists. His eyes narrowed as he stared at Li Er. Who did you hear this from? Yi Qinghan asked with a frown. My distant cousin told me. He heard it from a friend of his who was present at the time. Let me tell you, this matter is absolutely true. Everyone said that they had immortal herbs. It wasn't just one force that tried to snatch the immortal herbs. When the first force tried to snatch the herbs, the strength of both sides was about the same. However, a strange force appeared and scattered the people from the insane sect on the spot. Even the number 1 rogue cultivator, Zhua Shuguang, was seriously injured and finally escaped without a trace. Li Er said firmly, as if he had been present at the time. Yi Qinghan rubbed his fingertips, unable to calm down. He asked in a low voice, Then did you hear that anyone from the insane sect died on the spot? Li Er drank his good wine and said with fervor, Hee, I've been wandering the Jianghu for so long and there's nothing that I admire. However, I have to admire the people from the insane sect who suddenly appeared. Each of them is extremely fierce and they fought without any regard for their lives. They broke through the encirclement of so many masters and escaped. This group of monsters, I suspect that they are the hidden forces of some holy ground. Chapter 1969. There was a lot of discussion in the restaurant. They were all shocked by the battle results of the insane sect. Yi Qinghan was also relieved. Since the people of the insane sect had escaped, they should not be in any danger. Besides, Yarxing, Feng Huang, and Lin Wutian were there. They should be able to survive. However, there were too many uncertainties about Fan Yin. Xia Jilong was definitely a first-rate legendary-level existence. Since Fan Yin was severely injured, it would be difficult for her to move. If Xia Jilong did not kill her, it would be a big problem if she was accidentally killed by someone. Yi Qinghan clenched his fist. Seeing that Lin Shui was no longer in the mood to eat, he said softly, Xiao Shui, when the Son of War arrives, stay with him in the city. Don't run around until I come back. Just stay by his side. Oh. Lin Shui pursed her lips and nodded. She asked, Uncle, where are you going? I'm going to find Fan Yin and the people of the insane sect. After making sure that they're fine, I'll come back to get you, Yi Qinghan said softly. At this moment, a figure appeared in the restaurant. It was the Son of War. He was also in a sorry state. Being chased by 3 upper-level masters and still being able to escape showed that his strength was terrifying. The Son of War was about to ask if there was any news about Yi Qinghan when he heard Yi Qinghan waving his hand. Brother War, over here. The Son of War turned his head and was pleasantly surprised. He quickly walked over and said, I thought you didn't escape. Yi Qinghan smiled and replied faintly, I was lucky. The Son of War sat down and finished the leftovers. He did not care that they were leftovers. Brother War, I have a favor to ask of you. I hope you will agree to it. Yi Qinghan went straight to the point and said telepathically. Just say what you want, the Son of War replied quickly. Help me take care of Xiao Shui for a while. You'd better take her to the City Lord's mansion in Fengyang City. I believe that even if Xian Xiu and the others are powerful, they won't be able to snatch her from the City Lord's mansion, Yi Qinghan said seriously. The Son of War raised his eyebrows and asked, Where are you going? Go find Fan Yin. I heard that she was severely injured by Xia Jilong. Xia Jilong is also injured. I have to ensure her safety. Yi Qinghan said in a deep voice. The Son of War's pupils shrank. He said in disbelief, Is Xia Jilong crazy? He actually did not hesitate to injure Fan Yin. What is he trying to do? Yi Qinghan shrugged and said in a low voice, That's what I want to know too. Maybe he doesn't want Fan Yin to interfere in the matters between him and me. But he seriously injured senior sister Fan Yin in the Gobi Desert in the northwest. Isn't he afraid that she will die there? The Son of War knew the importance of this matter, so he nodded in agreement. Go ahead, but it's best to be careful. There are holy light blood-robed guards at all 4 gates. The south gate is the most dangerous, so take the west gate. This is my battle sun medallion. It can command the guards of any city of the battle race. Take it. Yi Qinghan nodded. He took the battle sun medallion and left alone. On the streets there were many people. Xian Xiu stood in an inn opposite the restaurant and stared at the Zhan family restaurant. He seemed to have found Yi Qinghan's location and watched him leave the restaurant with a smile on his face. Old Song and Old Yang, keep an eye on Yi Qinghan. The rest of you, stay put. Watch the son of war and that little girl. I will deal with them one by one today, Xian Xiu said coldly. Whoosh. After muttering to himself, the Xian Xiu quickly left. He followed behind Yi Qinghan for about 10 meters. But this distance was clearly not enough to fool Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan acted as if he did not notice Xian Xiu and slowly walked toward the west gate. Tap tap, at that moment, a patrol team walked over from afar. Their cultivation was not considered strong. The highest cultivation was only at the pinnacle of the sector Lord realm. Yi Qinghan followed the patrol team and quickly approached the west gate. His mind was spinning rapidly as he tried to think of a way to shake off Xian Xiu. However, it was impossible to shake off Xian Xiu with just the patrol team. They were too weak. Yi Qinghan scanned his surroundings and did not find a single upper-level cultivator that he could divert the trouble to. When they were about to reach the west gate, Yi Qinghan suddenly turned around and met Xian Xiu's eyes. The two of them looked at each other and smiled as if they were old friends who had not seen each other for 100 years. Esteemed Xian Xiu, it has only been one night, but your injuries have already healed by 80 to 90%. It seems like you are still strong despite your age, Yi Qinghan said mockingly. Xian Xiu's face darkened. He snorted and said, Yi Qinghan, don't be too happy. Either you don't leave the city today, or I will kill you. Is that so? Yi Qinghan asked indifferently. He looked at the guards at the west gate. Suddenly, his eyes flashed and he said, Let's wait and see. I will leave from the west gate. I guarantee that you will not be able to catch me. With that, Yi Qinghan quickly walked to the city gate. There were many guards at the gate. There were also 3 upper-level cultivators walking back and forth. It was obvious that they were not ordinary people. Yi Qinghan found a guard, pulled him to the side, and whispered into his ear, The battle race's son of war is my brother, and he's currently in the city lord's residence. Don't make a fuss and take me to see your commander. The guard saw Yi Qinghan secretly take out the battle prince token and hurriedly led Yi Qinghan to the city gate tower. In the center of the city gate tower was a huge guard room. There were also some experts. The commander was a middle-level expert. When he saw the battle prince token, he immediately bowed and said, What orders do you have? Personally lead a group of people downstairs and guard the city gate. When I signal you, immediately close the city gate, Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. The commander asked in surprise, It's against the rules to close the city gate in broad daylight. Just for a while. It won't delay anything, Yi Qinghan said calmly. The commander looked at the battle prince token in Yi Qinghan's hand and could only nod in agreement. Yi Qinghan quickly led the commander downstairs. As soon as he arrived, he said, Close the city gate halfway. Once you seal it, you must not open it. The commander nodded and shouted, Close the city gate. The guards were stunned by the commander's order. However, a military order was as important as a mountain. They did not doubt it and quickly closed the city gate toward the center. Yi Qinghan stood by the wall and looked at Xian Xiu and the others with a smile. No one knew what he was up to. Just as the city gate was about to close, Xian Xiu finally could not hold it in anymore. Wait, Commander, why are you closing the city gate in broad daylight? Isn't it against the rules? Xian Xiu held the city gate with one hand, preventing it from closing. I'm on a mission. If you want to go out immediately. If not, scram. The commander reprimanded angrily. I'm Xian Xiu. How dare you speak to me in such a tone? Xian Xiu immediately retorted angrily. However, the commander guarded the city gate all year round, so how could he have a good temper? When he saw that Xian Xiu actually dared to reprimand him, he immediately roared, I don't care if you're a Yin Xiu, Yang Xiu, or Xian Xiu. This is the territory of the battle tribe. This is my territory. Are you trying to challenge the dignity of the battle tribe? Xian Xiu's breathing stagnated, and he almost vomited blood in anger. However, when he saw Yi Qinghan's sinister smile, he was even angrier. In the end, he could only say, Let's go out. Old Song, stay in the city. Very quickly, Xian Xiu led the 4 experts out of the west gate. However, the moment they stepped out, the city gate was completely closed. Yi Qinghan's cold gaze swept across the crowd. He stared at an upper-level realm cultivator beside the city gate. Without any warning, he kicked the upper-level realm cultivator in the chest, sending him flying dozens of meters away. Whoosh, boom! Yi Qinghan transformed into a bolt of lightning and chased after him. He punched the upper-level realm expert in the chest while he was still flying. Ah! Old Song was completely stunned. He spat out a mouthful of blood essence. He had never imagined that Yi Qinghan would launch a sneak attack in the city. He had also never imagined that Yi Qinghan could erupt with such terrifying strength without using his divine power. It had directly cut off any chance of resistance. Yi Qinghan's speed was simply too fast. Without using his divine power, no one could stop his physical strength at close range. An upper-level expert of a generation was forcefully knocked unconscious just like that. Chapter 1970. Old Song felt a little wronged. Before he could react, Yi Qinghan had knocked him out. The commander and the surrounding guards were stunned. Old Song was an upper-level cultivator. No matter how stupid they were, they could tell that he had been knocked unconscious by Yi Qinghan's punches and kick. They couldn't help but tremble as they watched Yi Qinghan walk toward Old Song. Yi Qinghan stepped in front of Old Song, grabbed him by the neck, and lifted him onto the city gate tower. The city gate tower was dozens of feet tall. Yi Qinghan stood on the city wall, his divine robes fluttering in the wind. He held Old Song by the neck and hung him in the air, looking down at Xian Xiu, who was waiting at the city gate. Esteemed Xian Xiu, I have a gift for you. This blood strike guard is yours. Crack! Yi Qinghan tightened his grip and snapped Old Song's neck. A surge of divine power flowed through the severed neck into Old Song's knowledge sea, completely crushing his soul and suppressing his vitality. Yi Qinghan casually borrowed the power of Yin and Yang to devour Old Song's flesh and blood. Bang! Old Song's shriveled corpse fell and smashed into the city gate. It looked especially eerie and terrifying. Xian Xiu was furious. He looked at Old Song's corpse and roared, Yi Qinghan, how dare you do such a thing that goes against the heavenly Tao? Aren't you afraid of being struck by lightning? Yi Qinghan shrugged and smiled. If I'm struck by lightning, Xia Jilong will be the first to be struck. It won't be my turn. Xian Xiu and the other blood strike guards were burning with anger, especially Old Yang. He had been with Old Song for many years and was like a brother to him. When he saw Old Song die, his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He wanted nothing more than to kill Yi Qinghan. Don't be angry. It's bad for your body. Don't worry. I'll definitely leave through the western gate. You guys stay here and guard it, Yi Qinghan said with a sinister smile. With that, Yi Qinghan retreated into the tower and gestured with his hand. Someone, help me keep an eye on these old things. If they leave, let me know. The commander hurriedly gestured for his subordinate to look at the city gates. He bowed to Yi Qinghan and said awkwardly, Sir, when will the city gates open? There's no rush. Let's wait for them to leave, Yi Qinghan said casually as he sat in his chair. The commander didn't dare to ask any more questions. He was really afraid that Yi Qinghan would punch him. He wasn't an upper-level cultivator. One punch would be enough to cripple him. Below the city gates, the mystic was furious. His mind was in a mess. He had no idea what Yi Qinghan was trying to do. "Sir, he's clearly trying to create a diversion to pin us down at the west gate. In reality, he wants to leave through the other gate. Besides, he didn't bring that little girl with him. He can't possibly leave by himself, right?" the blood-robed guard expert warned. "Sir, if he leaves through the west gate, where does he want to go? He might still have the immortal medicine on him. I don't believe that he didn't take the immortal medicine and the little girl back to the crazed manor. Therefore, he came to the west gate purely as a pretense. Otherwise, why would he tell us that he has to go through the west gate?" Another blood-robed guard said hurriedly. Huff, huff, huff. The mystic breathed out a few times in anger. His mind was in a mess after the blood-robed guard's reminder. "Old Yang, you stay behind at the west gate. The rest of you, follow me to the south gate." The mystic thought for a long time before he flicked his sleeves and left. A blood-robed guard carried Old Song's corpse away. The five of them quickly left the west gate. Old Yang, an upper-level cultivator, stayed behind to guard the gate. He glared at the city gate tower, his eyes almost spitting fire. On the city gate tower, the guard immediately said respectfully, "Commander, that mystic left with his men. Only an upper-level cultivator is guarding the west gate." Yi Qinghan tapped his thigh and said indifferently, "Light the incense. The city gates will open in 5 minutes. Light the incense." The commander quickly gestured to the person beside him. Yi Qinghan waited absent-mindedly. His eyes were closed as he calculated the time. His fingertips were constantly tapping on his chair. However, the commander was like an ant on a hot pan. If he closed the city gates in broad daylight, the city lord could remove him from his position or even banish him from Fengyang City. Fengyang City was indeed a good place to cultivate. It had a good job that wasn't dangerous. It was suitable for people like him who didn't have any ambition or were old. The commander loved his job deeply and was unwilling to leave. He had been diligent and conscientious all these years and had never made a single mistake. "Don't worry. If the city lord blames you, just say that the son of war asked you to do so," Yi Qinghan said lazily without even looking up. "Yes, yes, yes. Sir, I'm not worried," the commander said with an embarrassed smile. Time passed very slowly, especially for the commander. He felt like an hour had passed, but the incense had only burned halfway. "Go down and open the city gates. When the blood-strike guard enters the city, immediately close the gates. Open them after the incense is extinguished." Yi Qinghan gestured with his finger. The commander personally rushed down and opened the city gate. Old Yang rushed in and looked around for Yi Qinghan. "Where is that person? Where is the person who killed Old Song?" Old Yang roared. However, the commander ignored him. Although Old Yang was an upper plain cultivator, he was still a soldier of the battle race. No matter how strong Old Yang was, he wouldn't dare kill a soldier in the city. Otherwise, he would be hunted down by the battle race. It would be difficult for his entire family to survive. "Close the city gates," the commander said impatiently. "Close the city gates again. How do you expect the citizens of the city to survive? Do you still have any respect for the law?" Old Yang reprimanded angrily. The commander was a little angry at being reprimanded. He turned his head and said coldly, "I only did this because I received orders. If you have the ability, go to the city lord's residence and complain about me." Boom! The city gates were closed. Yi Qinghan was like a great rock spreading its wings. He directly jumped down from the city gate tower that was over 10 feet high. The ground shook and dust flew everywhere. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan's body flashed a few times and turned into a wisp of smoke, disappearing from the city gates. Inside the city, a small guard ran down from the roof and respectfully handed over a piece of parchment to old Yang. He said, "Master, this is what the Lord you found told me to give you." Old Yang reached out and took the parchment. When he saw a few words written on it, his blood boiled and he almost spat out blood. "Idiot, I already said that I left from the west gate. You didn't believe me." Old Yang's hand trembled and directly shattered the parchment. His face twisted and he roared, "Open the city gates for me! Guards, get ready! Strictly prevent thieves from breaking in." The commander didn't hesitate to mobilize a large number of guards. Although they were a bunch of rookies, they had proper status. If old Yang dared to make a move, it would be equivalent to declaring war on the battle race. Old Yang was flustered and exasperated. He retreated to the streets and took out a signal arrow. He directly shot it into the void and exploded in the sky. The entire Fengyang city could see it clearly. At this moment, the mystic who had already reached the south gate trembled and almost fainted from anger. "Go to the west gate. Chase after him," the mystic roared. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, whoosh! A group of people flew through the air and headed straight for the west gate. However, Yi Qinghan was even faster. In a few flashes, he rushed hundreds of miles away from the city gates. Chapter 1971. Whoosh, whoosh! Yi Qinghan transformed into a wild wolf and darted through the wilderness. He did not fly, as he did not want to expose his whereabouts. Although this slowed him down, Xian Xiu and the others had to chase after him on the ground if they wanted to find him. As a result, their speed did not increase. Instead, they were slower than Yi Qinghan by half a beat. After running for 3 days straight, they headed northwest. The northwest was desolate and had few cities. It was considered good if they could come across a village within 100 miles. It was unlikely that they would come across a large tribe within 1,000 miles. The mystic behind him led 6 blood-robed guards, all of whom were in the upper realm. They chased after Yi Qinghan's tracks the entire time. They were less than 100 kilometers away from him. If it weren't for the fact that they couldn't determine his exact location, they would have been able to catch up to him in 2 hours. "That group of bastards can't keep following us." The divine bird squatted on Yi Qinghan's shoulder and looked behind them. Although it could not see, it was very sensitive and could clearly sense that Xian Xiu and the others were not far behind them. Yi Qinghan had been running for 3 days. Although his physical strength could withstand it, his willpower could not. This was already his limit. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan exhaled a mouthful of turbid air and stopped. He frowned as he looked behind him. He nodded and said, "We have to think of a way to shake them off. Otherwise, even if we find senior sister Fan Yin, she is heavily injured. Even if I bring her along, we won't be able to contend against them. We won't even be able to escape." However, it was easier said than done to shake off so many experts. The divine bird's large eyes flashed as it inquired, "Why don't we split them up and kill them one by one?" Yi Qinghan shook his head without hesitation and said, "Impossible. I don't have that much luck. The blood strike guard we killed earlier was not on guard at all. Furthermore, I was only able to kill him at close range. Do you think that killing an upper realm expert is as easy as drinking water?" The divine bird laughed mockingly. "Didn't I think that you were omnipotent, boss?" Yi Qinghan shook his head speechlessly. He looked around and realized that there were no ambushes, so he could only continue forward. At this time, in a border town in the northwest, a woman as beautiful as a flower was hurriedly moving forward. She quickly entered the town under the watchful eyes of the crowd. Her clothes were revealing, and her snow-white thighs were dyed red with blood. Her pale face made her look pitiful. Fan Yin was a unique existence in the world. Among the younger generation, only she could seriously injure Xia Jiulong. Fanine's fingertips were trembling and his legs were trembling. He held onto the wall and walked on the street looking for an inn. However, there were very few inns in this kind of border town. There was only one restaurant and tea house. Northwest Wolf Pass. There were 4 large words written on the restaurant. They were written in a flamboyant and majestic manner. The restaurant was very ancient, but it was still standing to this day. It could be seen that this restaurant had some ability. There were several valiant men sitting in the restaurant. They had unshaven beards and were wearing revealing clothes. They carried huge axes and heavy swords on their backs. They did not look like good people. They were drinking strong liquor from the northwest. The atmosphere was very gloomy and oppressive. The guests at the other tables did not even dare to speak. Fanine held onto the wall and walked in. As soon as she entered the Northwest Wolf Pass restaurant, the entire restaurant quieted down. Especially those men with heavy swords and huge axes. Their eyes were filled with lust as they stared at Fanine's thighs and towering peaks. They swallowed several mouthfuls of saliva. Fanine held onto the table and said tiredly, "Little brother, give me a room and a few jars of strong liquor. I'll give you the money in a few days." The waiter looked at Fanine and swallowed his saliva. He wanted to curry favor and agree, but those valiant men said, "The Northwest Wolf Pass does not accept credit. This is a rule that has been in place for 10,000 years. If you break this rule, I will come here every day." The waiter could not help but shrink his head. He said awkwardly, "Fairy, it's not that I don't want to help you, but the rules of the Northwest Wolf Pass cannot be broken. Do you have anything on you as collateral? Perhaps you can use it as collateral to pay for the room." Fanine was drowsy. She could not hold on any longer. Her storage ring had been broken and nothing valuable was preserved. Now she only had this set of clothes. But without clothes, what could she wear? "Ask your boss to come see me." Fanine resisted. Her willpower was on the verge of collapse. "My boss went out to do something. If he is quick, he will be back tomorrow. If he is slow, he might even be back in 3 to 5 months. The waiter replied. Those men grinned evilly. They were waiting for Fanine to be driven out of the Northwest Wolf Pass, so that they could take advantage of the situation. "Little girl, why don't you follow me? I will get a room for you. You can accompany me and have some fun. How about it?" The leading man stood up and walked towards Fanine. He stretched out his rough hand and touched Fanine's slender waist. "Go away." Fanine's killing intent radiated. If it was not for the fact that she could not fight back now, she would have killed this thief. "Yo, you are still a little chilly. I like hot girls the most." That man did not stop. His hand was about to touch Fanine's slender waist. Fanine did not dare to expose her identity. Those holy lands might be afraid of her identity. However, in this mortal land, the barbarians who wandered the world all year round would not be afraid. They would even take risks and taste the taste of a true disciple of the sky-reaching cult. Fanine tried to gather her divine power. However, she failed several times. Looking at that dirty hand that was about to touch her, she could not help but close her eyes. At this moment, the waiter mustered up his courage and said in a deep voice, "Lord Windwolf, you should know the rules of the Northwest Wolf Pass. Wolf Pass restaurant will never be provoked by anyone. Since you are wandering in the Northwest, please give the Northwest Wolf Pass face and don't make trouble in the restaurant." The man's hand stopped abruptly. He slowly withdrew his hand and looked at the waiter coldly. Then, he sneered and said, "It doesn't matter. I can wait. She can't enter Wolf Pass restaurant. She belongs to me, Windwolf." The waiter sighed and looked at the people in the other restaurants. He hoped that someone would come out to save the damsel in distress and take out money to provide a room for Fanine. However, no one dared to offend Windwolf. They all lowered their heads and pretended not to see. Fanine clenched her fists. She wanted to kill Windwolf and the others. However, she was powerless. The injuries that Xia Zhilong gave her were almost impossible to heal. Especially after her storage ring was destroyed, she did not have any divine medicine to help her. Who can lend me 1,000 strands of faith money? I will return you a city in the future. Fanny looked around, hoping that someone would lend her a helping hand. Ha ha! This woman is crazy. A city? Ha ha! This is the funniest joke I have heard this year. Wind Wolf laughed wildly. Little girl, why don't I lend you 1,000 strands of faith money? You can accompany my big brother to Wind Wolf's stronghold to be the mistress of the stronghold. Ha ha ha! The few people beside Wind Wolf also joined in. At this moment, a shabbily dressed young man sitting at the corner of the restaurant had a flash of light in his eyes. He seemed to be a person who had experienced many hardships. He spent many years in the wilderness. His skin was very poor. It was dark and rough. However, he seemed to be very powerful. He seemed to be at most 18 or 19 years old. His cultivation was only at the initial stage of the Sector Lord realm. Senior, I will lend it to you. That young man extended his hand and said, You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.